When a hot-headed cop accidentally gets involved in an ugly, racially motivated incident, his uncle Ray Donlin, a corrupt NYC cop, attempts to sweep it under the rug by helping fake his nephew's death. The bungled cover-up leads to investigations by idealistic Internal Affairs Officer Mo Tilden and Freddie Heflin, sheriff of the suburban New Jersey town where Donlin and his fellow crooked policemen live. Welcome to another feature presentation of Midnight Double Feature, and on this episode we'll be covering 1997's Copland, written and directed by James Mangold. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Midnight Double Feature. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for listening to the show. Here we are covering Copland, James Mangold, 1997. Hope you guys are doing all right. Zoheb, how you doing, buddy?
I'm good, dude. How you doing?
I'm good. I'm excited. I'm ready to jump into this movie. This is my first time ever watching this. This is what I call now the Russian roulette pick, where I just put the fucking put one in and just pull the trigger and see what happens. And I'm glad I did. Spoiler alert, it's a pretty good movie. I've always seen this. It's just, it's just about time to watch it, about time to cover it. But before we jump into everything, guys, thanks for listening to the show. If this is your first time listening to the show, there is an E on this motherfucker for a reason. We are going to spoil this movie that came out when I was 7 years old. Just a quick heads up on that. Also, you can find our socials in the show notes, but come to the Facebook group called The After Party. That's where a lot of our socials, a lot of people hang out, a lot of people post stuff. And then also make sure you sign up for our Patreon. That's patreon.com/Midnight Double Feature. It's $5 a month for the green room. You've got like 24 episodes in there right now, maybe more. You get all that for $5. And if you can't do the Patreon and get it, just stop by and rate and review us on iTunes. That's the biggest thing, man. Really, if you're like, hey, listen, I don't want to part with my $5, I fucking totally get it. A pack of cigarettes is like $9 these days. No, I'm just kidding. But the rate and review, it's free. It takes 5 seconds and it greatly helps out the show so much. So if you're listening to this and you're a fan and you haven't done that yet, I would consider a personal favor. Please check that out and give us those 5 stars. But with all that bullshit out of the way, fucking Copland, man, this movie has been like mythical. I remember being in the video store and seeing like the cover for Heat and Copland were like next to each other. And I remember going like, oh, that De Niro guy's on both of those, and I was like, that's kind of cool. But just the glasses of Heat, where he has those like round fucking glasses. And I was like, oh man, that looks fun. Just that blue, all of it stuck out to me. So this movie's been kind of like creeping in the background of my watch list. I feel like it gets kind of forgotten about, and then, it gets kind of brought back up. But I think we're on a great run for like crime films. The Town, there's been a lot of really, really good ones lately. But had you seen this before? Were you a fan
great
of this?
Run? The Town was like 2 years ago.
I know, but still, like Baby Driver, there's been like a bunch of other ones that have come out that have been really good.
No, absolutely, man. I think, I guess if someone were to look back at my picks over the last 3 years, I think the genre that I probably most tend to gravitate towards is
morally gray.
Yeah. Morally gray crime dramas.
Right.
Movies like Seven as well. Those are just kind of like the place that I live in. Like, you like your horror films, especially your older horror films, classic horror films. So it's funny because like before this podcast, not everyone, but people used to ask me like, what kind of genre of movies are you into? And I used to just be like, oh, I like action movies, I like whatever. And I do like action movies, but like now, man, just looking back into it, I 100% can probably say that my favorite genre is the crime drama, genre. I love this whole, like you said, morally gray area of what's right and what's wrong, and what's right is not always right, and what's wrong is not always wrong. There's always a level of understanding on both sides, and I love seeing characters get caught up in the middle. In this particular case, Sylvester Stallone's character, I love characters like that get caught up in the middle of it all, and have to either do what's morally right or just suffer the consequences. So Copland really highlights that for me, man. I love this movie. This movie fucking rules. rules.
Had you seen it already, or was this your first time seeing it?
No, I had seen it. I saw it about probably 5-6 years ago. Obviously, I saw it after the fact because I was 4 years old when this came out. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, like this is it felt like you said, the cover of it. I was like, this looks Heat-esque, right? Like the steely blue cover and shit. Like, all right, come on. What really surprised me though when I first saw this was the cast. I was like, there is a movie out there with Sylvester Stallone, Harvey Keitel, fucking Robert Patrick, Robert De Niro, and Ray Liotta, all in one movie. And I was like,
yeah,
how have I not heard of that before? Especially with, because I get it with Robert De Niro. Like, Robert De Niro's role in this is not as significant, I guess, as some people would expect. Like, it's
that's false advertising on their part.
Yeah,
I'm like, dude, come on, Janine Garofalo is in this movie more than him.
Right. Like, this is, I mean, if anything, this is Sylvester's movie, right?
Yeah.
I mean, like, this is, it's less so an ensemble than it is Sylvester Stallone's movie, I think. But, like, I love the way, dude, the idea of a police, like, town is awesome to me. Like, you know, I love that whole idea that, you know, these cops basically run this town, and this place is basically like a fucking Asgard for cops.
Right.
Which apparently is loosely based on a town that James Mangold grew up in.
That's interesting.
Like, he grew up in a town, I'm forgetting the name. But essentially, yeah, it was mostly run by cops. It was all police families that used to live there. And can we just talk about James Mangold for a second? How amazing this director is! Like, dude, this guy is. I am so like, as much, like, I think we talked about it last episode. As much as I'll roll my eyes that there is another Indiana Jones coming out, I am comforted by the fact that it's directed by James Mangold. Like, you know, I'm just like, all right, man. Like, I think, you know, if there is one director who can put a franchise to sleep the best way that possible, it's James Mangold, who did fucking Logan, right? I mean, Logan is a masterpiece.
Yeah.
Ford v Ferrari, dude, if you haven't seen it, just fucking amazing. Top notch, dude. Another great movie that he also did is 3:10 to Yuma.
Oh, hell yeah. Fucking great movie, man.
Great. And also, I haven't seen Girl Interrupted. But I mean, like, you know, I heard okay things. The other movie that I really like though is Identity.
Oh, the Cusack.
Dude, fucking rules that movie. Fucking great movie. But yeah, he's a solid director, man. And like, I think this being his second movie, like, you know, like, dude, how on your second movie do you get actors like this? Like, you know, this is also really great Keitel. Like, really, really great Keitel, like Harvey Keitel. This is like, I'm getting some like Reservoir Dogs moments from Harvey Keitel in this movie, as kind of like the gang leader. And I read some articles that contended that this is absolutely one of Sylvester Stallone's best roles. And while I don't fully agree that it's better than Rocky, his performance as Rocky, this is 100% up there with one of his best roles, and it's never talked about, right? Like, this kind of like went against his type, you know, like he gained 20 pounds to play this character. It was a very deep and kind of like conflicted character, someone that he doesn't usually play in the late 90s, you know?
Right, yeah. Because when I was reading,
awesome,
he was like, I hope this pulls me out of my slump, you know, because it was like Rocky V had come out in 90, and that really, you know, I don't know a lot of his films from like 90, like Tango and Cash, maybe Lock-Up. I can't think of a lot of his early to mid 90s stuff.
Oh, Judge Dredd, yeah.
So he was kind of in like
apparently he took this role for scale, like the kid didn't get paid a lot. But that was only because he got paid $20 million for Judge Dredd.
No, yeah, well, there you go. Well, especially now, that's crazy. He was getting $20 million in 95, and it's like, what are these actors making now for movies? You know, like, that's crazy. Right. But I'm sorry, was that your thoughts? No,
that's it, man. I really dig this movie. I'm glad you chose it. It wasn't a movie that's always like, I feel like it gets lost to time. Like,
it's not obvious, is it? It's not an obvious movie.
it's not an obvious pick. But like once you're in it and once this movie's moving, dude, like you're kind of like at the edge of your seat. You're just like, holy shit! Like
I bit one of my fucking nails like down, but it hurts. Like I can't grip shit because it hurts my fucking finger. I was like, God damn it, dude! I was watching this, just like, oh my god, dude, it was great.
Such a great conspiracy movie. Also, Michael Rappaport. Do you follow him on Twitter?
I don't. But he was in a TV show I watched, Boston Public, I think, with
Prison Break was the first thing I saw him in.
Oh, really? He was a teacher in that show. I think it was Boston Public. But no, I don't follow him on Twitter. Is he crazy?
Little crazy. Little. I mean, like, look, he's man. You can just type in Michael Rappaport on YouTube, and you will find giant rants on him. Like he's going on rants against Donald Trump, dude. It's fucking wild. It's just.
I'll check it because he's a comedian, right? Michael Rappaport,
right? Yeah, I think he's a stand-up comedian.
Let's Google this before we look like schmucks.
The only other thing I've seen him in is Deep Blue Sea.
Oh yeah, fuck! I forgot he's in that. He's just got such a look to him that you're like, dude, he's only 51. It's like, damn, you must
so
older,
so New York. He looks so New York, dude.
Yeah, he definitely has that kind of like, hey, who'd you pick for the game last night? It's like he's got that he should be eating a piece of pizza constantly, like with like a New York jersey on. But yeah, I remember him from like television shows. I never really watched him a lot in movies, and when he popped up in this, I was like, oh, okay, cool, like that's awesome. I was like, I like that guy. I don't have any problems with him, but the cast just kept like. As it kept going,
dude,
I was like, dude.
The first 25 minutes, it's like, there is no one that you do not recognize. Like, I mean, like, because this is like, I don't know how they did it, but like, this is a combination of the entire Goodfellas cast mixed with the entire Sopranos cast.
Dude, absolutely.
Whenever they kept introducing people, I'm just like, holy shit, that's Carmela Soprano.
Is that
holy
Artie
shit,
Bucco?
That's Paulie. Yeah, is that Artie Bucco? Is that fucking Paulie? What the fuck is happening here?
Well, also, I love, like, literally, like you said, everybody that you look to, even like, Artie Bucco's in there for 30 seconds. Paulie's in there only in like pictures. Edie Falco's in there. She, like, the woman that plays Artie Bucco's wife is walking out of the house as Freddie is walking in later on. It's like, dude, what the fuck? And the mayor is the head of the FBI in The Sopranos. Yeah. I was like, holy shit. But even down to like the small things, like there's a guy, I think, because I don't want to be wrong, but I'm pretty sure this is the same guy. He's the first one that they interrogate when you meet Robert De Niro, the tall black cop. He's got a goatee. The one they're like roasting, and he was like, this is what will happen if you don't tell, whatever the fuck that I love that part just because of De Niro. But I think even that guy, he was in like King of Queens or something like that. And I was like, holy shit. Like I've seen all of these people in everything, and they just keep popping up. And honestly, you need to watch the movie twice because you will get socked in the face like every 40, I don't know, probably every 13 minutes. There's somebody that you're like, is that Bobby Bacala from The Sopranos? And it's like you end up like looking in the background like a goofy bastard because you're like, this has to be here. Yeah, that is him. Victor Williams from King of Queens. He's like the one that they're getting onto. But I gotta say, just kind of getting into my thoughts, like I did really enjoy this movie. It's a little girthy, and I'll say my notes are on the director's cut. It's like 10 minutes difference. It's not a big deal. It's a lot of editing. Some scenes are shorter or longer. They add some. One thing they did cut out was fucking Debbie Harry. Do you know who Debbie Harry is? For the love of God. Don't make me feel old. Oh, Jesus. She's the singer of Blondie. Call me on a line.
Okay.
Yeah. But she's the bartender at the bar, and they completely edit her out of the movie. But she's in the director's cut. But she has like 4 lines, and she was like, yeah, I don't care. They just cut me out, but I got paid anyway. So I was like, cool. Yeah. She's like, I really don't care.
Well, it's interesting that you say like the movie's a little too girthy, man, because like the theatrical cut is an hour and 45, and I think that's perfect, to be honest. Because when the movie ends, it just ends. Like, there's no fucking around or anything like that. Like the way it ends is just, we're over. We're finished. We have that scene with Noah Emmerich and Sylvester Stallone, and we're off. We're finished. We're done. See you later. Like, you know, that's it.
My thing is, does yours have the whole subplot with Joey banging Ray's wife Rose and the trash on the lawn and stuff?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
I don't need that. I don't need that element. And I'll just be, it's one of the biggest things in the movie that I was like, why does he need to be banging her? And I was like, maybe it adds an element to why Ray kills Joey. And we can kind of get into that when we cross that bridge. But I don't need that subplot. It's kind of weird. I don't know. Like maybe it's just there for her character to have more to do.
It might, yeah. I think it's a good point. And we can talk about it more when we get to it. But yeah, I think you're kind of like on the money there, because it gives Ray more of a reason to not save Joey, right? I mean, like from the fall.
Right. And wait a minute, did you say your movie ended with him and Noah Emmerich at the end? Because mine's just him walking into the station and then that's it.
Whoa, really?
Yeah, like the end of it is it's Ray Liotta that goes to the station with him. Because Noah Emmerich runs off. It's Ray Liotta who goes to the station with him.
Oh no, there's a scene. Dude, this is crazy. There's
nuts.
A scene with Sylvester Stallone under the George Washington Bridge, like right at the end, and he's just kind of like looking out at the city. And Freddie's Noah Emmerich's like Noah Emmerich's like, Freddie, we got a jackknife truck up on Route 5. Let's go. And then like it's like, well, I'm going. Like, you know,
holy shit, that's crazy. Literally,
that's
they
crazy.
walk into the NYPD. That's the end of the movie for me. This is why this is an issue sometimes with regional shit, but it might be the director's cut, but maybe. But I feel like a director's cut changing the ending would be. I don't know. That seems kind of weird. Director's cuts usually don't change the ending, I guess. You know, like they add little things.
Well,
I don't know.
director's cut usually, it's usually like deleted scenes being added back in. That's usually what it is.
Yeah, it's the fat being put back on the steak, you know. But now mine didn't end in that shit at all. Holy hell. Mine, you were like, this movie ends. It's like, hell yeah, it does. And you're like, no, there's one more scene. I was like, oh, mine fucked me and never called me the next day. Yours has like this nice little.
It's like, hold on. Oh, I have the ultimate edition, the Zack Snyder cut. Yes, of course.
There you are. Okay.
Or at least the James Mangold cut. Yeah.
There's a whole subplot in there about Robert Patrick somehow killing Sylvester Stallone's parents. No, I'm just kidding. I gotta say, Robert Patrick's might be one of my favorite part of this movie. I think he kills it.
So good, dude.
I think he is. I was watching this going, why has this guy never been Freddy Krueger? What the fuck? And I was like, Robert Patrick looks terrifying. Like when he gets up close. And the thing is, he's been the T-1000. He's this guy. He's David Scatino in Sopranos. He's the card gambling junkie. You know, he's the guy who loses everything. And he's like, I'm going to come back. You're going to see. And it's like, dude, does he
live in like a camping store at one point? Like,
I think so. I think he lived. I think he's sleeping in the store.
Yeah, he owns the store.
Sporting goods store.
Sleep in there. Yeah, sporting goods. That's right.
Yeah, I think he does at some point. He like sells his son's car. That is like Sopranos at top tier. Was when David would like. He's like, yeah, we got him for 45 boxes of ZD, and it's like $45,000. And it's like, I can't breathe. You like have anxiety for the poor guy. But all in all, I did really, really enjoy the movie. I think that I probably should have watched the theatrical cut just because there are minimal changes that I was reading about online. The narration's a little bit different. There's some shit with Freddy at the beginning that's a little bit different. But all in all, I was like, this movie is great and it needs to be talked about a little bit more. I think that there are some problems with it though, with like character motivations, stuff that I would change a little bit. Like that subplot and certain character things. I'm like, what does that really add? And how does that change the story if you subtract it? Is kind of like the math that I do in my head when I feel something that I don't think sits great with me in this movie. And there's a couple of times that kind of hit me that I was like, listen, this movie is great. This movie is like a 70s Western. And I love the whole, you sat just watching your life go by and now it's time to get the fuck up. Like now you have a time. Now you're being presented an opportunity again to jump back into the river. Like do it. You know, even though you have one bad year and your life turned out like this, I love Stallone because it's kind of this, you got to jump back in the river, man, you know, and that's kind of what he does for Superboy. Is it's like, listen, I could keep quiet and I could just sit there and keep my mouth shut, but I'm jumping back into the river because I'm just, you know, that's just what feels right. You know, that's the biggest thing I ever did in my life. And And, the thing is, like, Robert De Niro should not have top billing. Like, he's not top billing. He should not be in, like, the Rushmore of this movie. I'm sorry. Like, you're in it for fucking, you eat a sandwich for half your runtime. Fuck off, dude. Like, he's great. Listen, De Niro's always great. For me anyways, but I think that there's certain parts of this that I was like, I'd change a couple of things, but really Ray Liotta and Robert Patrick, I was like, holy shit, these guys are fucking amazing. I love seeing Edie Falco pop up at the beginning, but even the actress that plays Liz, she's Tony's like Guma at one point. I was like, Jesus Christ,
Peter
man.
Berg, dude.
Yeah, from
Peter
Entourage.
Berg is in this fucking movie. Peter Berg, who directed Lone Survivor and like Friday Night Lights.
Oh, did he?
The Rundown. Yeah. Patriots Day, Deepwater Horizon. He's a fucking massive director. And like he's got like a pretty meaty role as Ray in this movie. Crazy.
Yeah, he does. Wait, is he Ray? Peter Berg? I thought he was Joey.
Mm-hmm.
Ray
Sorry,
is
Joey,
no, dude.
yes,
you are, because this movie is like Johnny Depp Sleepy Hollow level confusing with names and shit. And I was like, who is who and why am I getting fucked? And I feel like I'm drunk. And it's like, I just felt like I was getting tossed around at some points where I was like, okay, again, director's cut though, like maybe theatrical version because they add some little narrations here and there. But all in all, I mean, this movie, when you talk about these crime films, when you talk about these, they need to be, this movie especially needs to be talked about a lot more. And I also love that it's just a director's singular vision. He wrote it and he directed it. And just based off of the power of the script alone, it all got produced and picked up and shit. But that's kind of my opening thoughts. I do have a funny thing for at the end of this that I'll save. That's like, wait a minute, like, but I'll save it for the end. But this opening narration is really what starts the movie. Back in the 70s, every cop wanted out of the city, but only cops allowed to live outside New York were transit cops because the transit authority was also run by New Jersey and Connecticut. Because the transit authority was also run by New Jersey and Connecticut. So these guys I knew at the 3-7 started pulling overtime at subway stations and got the city to declare them auxiliary transit cops. I felt drunk by the time he got to that sentence. And I was like, hold on, pause it. And I was like, what did he say? And it took me a second to like comprehend everything because it was like Jersey, Connecticut, New York. It's like, so wait, cops? And I was still stuck on, you have to live in the city? And my brain was so stuck on that I was like, I guess at the time in the 70s, you had to work and live in New York. I guess. I didn't know that. Maybe that's my ignorance, but I was so confused by this sentence here.
Yeah, it was a hurdle. Like I was just like, this is I don't know if this is fiction for fiction's sake, but like it kind of like baffles me that you need to work and live in the city.
Yeah, right. Like what's the reasoning?
Okay, fair enough. I mean, hey, like if they need quick response officers who are off duty, then
that makes sense. Yeah,
makes sense. But but I mean, like, I guess, it is all in service to set up this wild, like, Copland as.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a winding road. They got some land in Jersey, some cheap loans for some people they knew. They made themselves a place where the shit couldn't touch them. That's what they thought anyways. Copland. It's just sad reading about Stallone, which is like, yeah, I did this to kind of like whip my career back in shape and it fucked it up even more. Yeah. And now it's like, he's having this like, here's the thing. I was in like middle school. I love Stallone. I've already said my AOL screen name was Stallone Clone 123. Fucking idolized dude. Love Stallone shit. Loved it. Everybody knew it.
Time on this Stallone clone. Can we spend some time on this?
I was a 6'2", 235 pound 13-year-old.
Are you an Italian stallion?
Yeah, and I was Italian, and
did you do a porno or anything?
Yeah, I had a speech impediment. No, but I love
people didn't know if you were on the spectrum or not. Right. It was kind of like vague.
Yeah, we're like, he's somewhere in there. But I was like watching Stallone movies like Lock Up and like Lords of the Flatbush and his other shit besides just Rocky and Rambo, and going like, no, this guy's actually Cliffhanger. Like, this guy's an amazing actor. And I remember getting laughed out of rooms, and now it's like, all of a sudden Stallone, it's like people are going back and appreciating First Blood and Copland, and it's like, those movies were great, but I think people our age are confusing First Blood for First Blood 2 and 3. And it's like, nah, that's not, it's a totally different thing. And this movie too,
based.
I think if James Mangold never went anywhere, this movie dies. This movie doesn't really do anything, but because he is still really prolific, I'm glad that it feels like it's skipping rocks, but
Freddy's almost certainly special, right?
Dude,
There's something there.
I've met guys like they're just kind of quiet maybe because he's not dumb, but he is kind of like, there's like just some kind of cognitive, like it takes him a second to really kind of like, but I think that part of the character might be the hearing. I think part of it might be him thinking about what people have said because he half heard it.
It might be the hearing, but like also I'm kind of like basing this on the way that people like
treat him. Yeah.
People treat him. Yeah. People talk to him. And I'm wondering if that's just because, Harvey Keitel's character and everyone else just kind of like underestimates him. Like, if that's what we're supposed to think, like, they only treat him like that because not because he's a can't get right. Right. Like he's just
he's a pushover,
Right. Right. Well, I mean, like, but also think about his job, right? Sheriff of a place that is entirely made up of cops, right? I mean, like, it's just such a nothing job.
Yeah. Well, it's like being the guy, it's like pouring a glass of water in the ocean. It's like, you're fucking useless, dude. We got water. We got, I don't need you. We've got everybody else. I like, the way they're introduced to him right off the bat with Ray Liotta talking to Edie Falco. And this is really not, the first season of Sopranos was 99. So this was just a couple of years, like right off the bat. But mine is a little bit different here where she actually sits there and she's like, do you mind? And he's like, oh, like, I'm sorry. I couldn't hear you. And Ray Liotta's like, fuck off, goddammit. Like, he's cool. He's a cop.
Right. Ray Liotta was killing it at this time. This was post Goodfellas, right? And there are moments in this where I'm just like, that's a Henry Hill moment right there. Like when he's driving later, he's looking in like his rearview mirror, and I'm just like, he's fucking looking up for a helicopter. Yes. I know he is.
Well, and he's coked out the whole time. This is like Henry Hill. Right. This is like half of Goodfellas stretched out to 2 hours, and he's just sweaty and like, I got things organized with these guys, But there's also the way they dressed alone in these like baggy plaid shirts is like, oh, of course, like they try to make him look like fatter, and it's like, he's not this like bloated aging, it's like, dude, him with 40 pounds packed on is still in better shape than both of you and I. And it's like, dude, this guy still, he looks,
I feel like I'm about to have a heart attack just sitting there.
Dude, he's also like 51 right here, and him gaining 20 pounds is like, fuck it. Whatever. I'll shred that off in like a month. But the whole thing, I like all of this beginning stuff because it's like it's almost like nobody has time for him. It's like nobody has time for, and I keep wanting to call him Frank. It's Freddy. We meet the Four Aces, the top cop bar in Garrison. We meet Figsy, our hero Freddy. He's a quiet pushover looking for quarters. And in this version, he's like, yeah, it's my birthday. And I'm looking for quarters to play and it's like, oh, that is so sad. I was like, God, that is so sad. I love him stealing the quarters. And he's like, there's video game people and pinball people, and you are pinball people. And I was like, yes, that's a good fucking description of Freddy. That is very good. And he also says, hey, everybody's over at that bachelor party. We cut over to New York City. We see Murray Superboy Babbage leaves a bachelor party and winds up shooting these two guys in a confused altercation, which is cool because they set up, I think this is interesting how they set a lot of this up. The beer bottle under the tire. He's jumpy. We see that he's jumpy because just the guy throwing up in the parking lot and he gets a gun. It's like, dude, calm down. It's just a guy throwing up, It's not like you heard somebody screaming for help. Like, I don't know. That to me was like, oh, this guy is like pistol quick. Like he's a little too jumpy on this. But
you also got to remember when this movie came out, right? This came out 6 years after the Rodney King riots. So having a white police officer kill two black citizens. That followed like racially motivated crimes in movies like just blew up after Rodney King. I think like it just ended up being a thing. It was just like holy shit, this is like now in this movie, this is in that movie. So I think they did a really good job of like showing us how he would react to a situation like this, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like like because it is a gun, right? I mean, like we see like the later they mentioned that it's a steering wheel lock. But oh no, it is a steering wheel lock. Like
yeah,
because
like,
I was
but
like,
it totally fucking looks like a gun at first.
Yeah,
but it looks weird. But you're like, okay, like what is this?
Yeah. I've never gone back and just kind of like paused it, but like yeah, no, it absolutely does. And I can see like the way that he interprets it as a fucking gun because it looks like a fucking gun, right?
Yeah,
and they're black, so obviously they're loaded.
It's almost like a Shakespearean tragedy of like. The tire not popped, maybe he wouldn't have started shooting, but it's like the tire blows, you point something at him. And I'm not saying like, oh, he definitely doesn't have any kind of racial implications. He probably does. This is a cop in the 90s, like we have problems today. Why would you not have problems in the 90s with that? Especially when he's a part of this protected like pack. But there's also a part of him that's like he saved those babies from that fire, and he is torn up when they plant the gun and he's like, it doesn't have to go down like this. So you're almost like, because when I first read it, when I first kind of started reading synopses and stuff, the whole thing was about how he kind of racially profiled these guys and shot them. And I was like, yeah, I think that can definitely play an element into it. But there's also an element to me that's like, it's just tragic on every level. It's like the gun, the bottle. It's like them pointing the thing. And it's like, dude, all of these things went so perfectly wrong at the right time. And had the tire not popped or they not pointed the thing or him not have been so jumpy, this would have been a totally different thing, but now it's like, especially I imagine if this movie came out today, I couldn't imagine them trying to cover this up. This feels so much more like realistic in like 97. It just because the cops this is before anybody had a fucking cell phone they could record you with. So it feels like, dude, you could really fucking do just about anything. These guys are like, yeah, we found a set of bowling pins and a dead clown back here. They just pull out fucking anything, man.
Holy shit. It's also the hooker that I've been fucking. Oh shit.
Oh, wow. That's so weird.
How'd you get there? Yeah, no, I think you definitely hit the nail on the head. A question that I wanted to ask you though, and for the life of me, I can't seem to get a handle on like why they did this. But what do you think about Freddy getting into the accident the same time as this goes down? Like this is, I don't know what they're trying to say. Are they just trying to get Freddy under the bridge just for a dramatic moment? Like, you know what I mean? Like, because he looks up and he sees the flashing lights, right? Like, or are we supposed to suspect that he saw something or did not?
That's
see
what
something?
I thought. My first 15 minutes, I was like, okay, so Stallone is not one of these guys. He sees something he's not supposed to see, and now he's in danger the rest of the movie. And it was like, oh no, he's like complicit with a lot of this shit. Like he knows what's going on. And that's what's kind of interesting to me is like, okay, so why is he under that bridge if we don't really need him under that bridge? But I think what's funny is, the whole thing is like, not that he was driving drunk and swerved because he wasn't paying attention and there was a deer. It's the story everybody passes around that he was chasing a speeder. And it's like, so you lie too. Maybe you don't lie like they lie on the bridge, but you lie like they lie in New Jersey. It's this little lie that gets you out of a whole lot of red tape. But it is kind of like, why put him right under there if he's not going to, I don't know. I do think that there's something interesting because both these accidents happening at the same time, I don't think is a coincidence, because I think this accident kind of shows Freddy. He's like, man, I'm fucking washed up. I'm drinking too much. Like I'm overweight. I'm not doing what I need to be doing. But this incident ends up being the thing that kind of brings down thit's, I think if Freddy doesn't have the wreck, he probably doesn't, maybe he has some kind of qualms about what they're doing. But I think just getting into that wreck and damaging himself physically is like, I got to get a grip on myself. I'm not like these guys. I don't know. That's just my interpretation. But even like all the cops, like, he's not one of the main cops. I don't think he has any speaking lines or anything, but he's on this bridge scene. He's there when Joey falls, but he was in Stephen King's Thinner. He took over RoboCop when Peter Weller left for like RoboCop 3. It's like Robert Blake Hall or something. He pops up. But dude, everybody in this, like the ambulance driver that gets into a fight with Robert Patrick, you're like, I know you from shit. It's like, God, this movie just doesn't fucking stop. Like, revealing people. But what I love is they're on this shadowy bridge. The lights are going and you just see the exchange of like glances. You just see people handing keys, whispering, "Hey, I gotta go. Let's do it." Blah blah. And
the music, the music is sinister, right? Like it's just that really sinister kind of like music. And I was like, man, something's about to happen. I gotta say though, Harvey Keitel's acting of like when he jumps off the bridge, like when he supposedly jumps off the bridge.
Oh, he
he's
fell.
Like, oh my god. Oh my god, he jumped.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Oh my god, he jumped.
And part of me is like, is it intentional?
Because I was revisiting this movie.
Yeah.
I was like revisiting this movie after a long time, and then like that because I genuinely couldn't remember if he jumped, and then I was like, oh no, he definitely didn't jump. He definitely didn't jump.
Watching it, I was like, oh, he pushed him. So he pushed him and something, blah, blah, blah. But dude, yeah, part of me feels like, cause it's gotta be intentional. Cause Harvey says like, oh my God, he jumped, like he's so monotone that it's like, dude, this is your nephew, but this whole scene on the bridge is great. Him planting the gun, the paramedic throwing the gun over the bridge is dude, you're fucked now, man.
No, but I love that, I love that Robert Patrick goes in there, plants the shit, and they get into an altercation. I love that the paramedic actually calls them out on it. Like he's just like, no, we're not doing this. We're not doing this. Like, like as if these guys are known for this shit. Like, as if this paramedic has seen shit like this before. Well, like it's this level of like world building that's just like that we haven't seen. Yeah. But based on this paramedic's kind of like reaction to this.
Yeah.
He's like, not again, bitch.
The moment Robert Patrick is sitting there and the cops are like, what the fuck happened to these guys? This is a traffic accident. These guys have been shot 6 times. And you see Robert Patrick like, do your fucking job, you nurse. And he just, the camera following him across the scene is like, oh man, I'm getting stressed, man. Somebody's head is going on the chopping block. But the best part is when they start fighting and they have to pull Robert Patrick off of him. I was like, dude, this is fire. This is lit. This is amazing. This is probably some of the best acting I've ever seen out of Robert Patrick because he knows what's on the line and he is electric. He's so fucking good. And just like literally the veins in his neck are out. They're having to like scraggly like pull him off of him. I was like, God, this is so fucking great. So he shoots the guys. Conspiracies ensue with planted weapons. Superboy jumps, fearing for his career / life. And we enter one internal affairs lieutenant, Mo Tilden. He's grilling the officers about the previous night on the bridge. He's like, listen, by all due respect, pardon my French, but shut up. You shut up. And he's got, you point, but then you put your pinky out just a little bit and you point like that. And that's kind of the way that he points. But as we were watching this, Lindsay goes, Jesus Christ, he looks weird, with like the feathered hair and the mustache. It's like, wait, wasn't Cape Fear 2 years before this? Like, that's so weird to think about. And just like, just cutting over him. Yeah.
Counselor, man.
I think it's his partner that's like, counselor, let us talk to him. But I just wanted them to cut over and him be in a Hawaiian shirt with a captain's hat, just like that fucking De Niro grin, just like counselor, man. But they tell him, have you ever been they're grilling this cop. You ever been to Garrison, New Jersey? You think one of those white boys on the bridge is going to save your ass? It's like, I mean, yeah, they'd fucking sell each other down the river. What do they give a shit? But De Niro, he doesn't have a lot of screen time, but this is like, who was it? Wow, what is his goddamn name? Doug Stanhope has a great bit about meeting Jake LaMotta in real life. He was like, Jake LaMotta was my neighbor in Bisbee, Arizona. And he was like, yeah, he was like, I got to watch like football with that dude and shit. And he was like, Jake LaMotta was played in a movie called Raging Bull by a guy, for you 22-year-olds in the audience, Robert De Niro used to be an actor. And, and I laughed my ass off. And it's like, yeah, it kind of feels like, Grudge Match and Righteous Kill and these like really god awful movies that he's in, like, lately that just have no interest to me. But God, watching him and shit like this, it's like, there's a reason why he's like the best. I
rewatched Heat last week. Like, you messaged me. Actually, it was so funny. You sent me a meme about Heat, and then I sent you back a photo of literally just me watching the screen in that moment, dude. It was crazy.
It's nuts watching De Niro and the moments when he's just kind of by himself and he's like, they find the socks too? And he's like sitting down the sandwich. He's just so fucking good, man. Watching him do these little moments or just like knowing, I think it's also when you know what kind of actor De Niro is, when he was asking or was he asking the real Henry Hill or somebody? He was asking somebody how Jimmy Conway would have gotten ketchup out of a bottle. And it's like, you're that meticulous. And it's just like, when you do that, I trust you as an actor. And I'm on your side. For
yes, he's got like those bullshit, like, Grudge Match and shit. But like, dude, The Irishman and Joker, he's also working with Scorsese on another one called Killers of the Flower Moon, with Leonardo DiCaprio. Like he's still putting out good shit. It's just, unfortunately, it's a little more few and far between than.
Yeah. Well, my thing is, like, I liked him in Joker. Irishman, when he's stomping that guy, I laughed out loud. And I was like, that looks hilarious.
See, that's more of a production thing, though. Like I think genuinely, like, dude, you can't tell me when he's fucking sitting there at the end and he's lamenting with Joe Pesci about their fucking life, like, in the prison. I'm just like, man, this is kind of like hitting me in the face.
You want me to be honest? I couldn't finish Irishman. I couldn't finish it.
Yeah. I'm not surprised.
I'm not surprised. I felt because I need to.
You're a piece of shit. So
I need to finish it. But, let's fucking get through Copland first.
Oh, wait, hold on. They were both in that movie. Keitel and.
Oh, yeah, they fucking were. Yeah. And I was thinking, too, has Stallone ever done anything with Al Pacino? I don't think they've ever really worked together on anything. And that kind of bums me out because it's like, man, I think those are two guys that, because Stallone said, he was like, I think this was the first time he ever worked with Robert De Niro. And he was like, coming up, he had Taxi Driver out as I was doing Rocky. And we were both kind of like, two Italian guys in the 70s. And it's like, oh yeah, that's true. I guess you guys probably were somewhat in competition for roles and shit like that. But I mean, God, it's so hard. I go like, yes, Stallone's an action hero, and no, he's not De Niro, but De Niro couldn't really do the actiony shit. Like, he couldn't do Rambo, like you couldn't do Rambo First Blood and it'd be amazing. Yeah. There's something about Stallone that has that presence, that I go back and forth. You don't have to love one more than the other, but it's like, oh God, it's just, I don't think Stallone gets the credit that he does, but I think De Niro's doing some shit lately. That's all I'm going to say. I'm like, I'm not a big fan of it. Like I said, he's grilling the officers about the night on the bridge. Back in town, we see Superboy is alive and well, and he's hiding with the help of his Uncle Ray. This whole scene's great. I love Janine Garofalo. Anything she pops up in. She was on that. She was just in Sopranos. I was watching. She's in like Mystery Men. She's like Jerry's fiance in Seinfeld for a couple episodes.
The only thing I saw her in. Oh, actually, yes. Obviously, I've seen Seinfeld. First thing I saw her in was Wet Hot American Summer.
I've never seen that. No.
Oh, dude. I know. I think I've recommended it to you already before, but like, yeah, you got to get on that shit, man. It's on fucking Netflix. Hit it up. But you're talking about this scene where they pull him over, right?
Right. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. This was. Can you imagine? Like, Janine Garofalo walks up. She's like asking for ID, whatever. Fuck. And then fucking the amount of like, I'm gonna go over your head and just ask for Freddie in the car,
dude. Especially Robert Patrick's like, hey, why don't you just put along, princess, and we'll be all right. And it's like, oh my God,
off, dude,
you cunt. But there was a girl I went to high school with that we kind of talked for a little while, but she looked like Janine Garofalo, and I remember being like, Jesus Christ, who in this school else would look like fucking Janine Garofalo? I remember pointing that out one day and being like, I will never unsee that. They just ruined it for me, but in a great way. But like I said, they get pulled over. They have this little moment. I love the fact that it starts on the water tower and it pans down and it's like, oh fuck, that's great. That's where he's going to be. That's so cool. Why would you stick your fucking head up, you dumb shit? Like, he looks up like, who is it? I was like, you goofy bastard. Like, you idiot, man. I guess it doesn't matter because everybody in town fucking knows by the end of the movie, you know, like, what does it matter really? But he, you know, basically they're putting him in hiding. Freddy, he meets with Tilden, who gives him his card. We find out that Ray and Tilden were together at the academy. Some of these scenes, it's a lot of little scenes kind of chopped together.
A lot of setup, right? Because we also see Freddy, you know, with this whole looking out of that the woman putting the, what is it, the
Liz,
the plushie on the roof, yeah, Liz,
that whole thing is good too. But one of my favorite things as this is all getting set up, and you know, he goes and gets the turtle, Mo goes inside and talks to the cops, is the shot of Freddy on the street looking in on real cops talking to each other. And he's like, man, always on the outside looking in, you know, like he's just standing there and you can see his reflection in the glass. It's like, God, that's so sad, dude. It's like, like, I love what De Niro says. You may be a law enforcement officer, and so am I, but you are not a cop. And I was like, oh God, dude, that is so good.
Well, I mean, but also De Niro as well, right? Working for Internal Affairs. I mean, like, he's also, but like, not seen as a cop by other cops, right? I mean, like, that's something that
he's like Toby from The Office, you know, that's how they look at him.
Yeah,
for real.
Right. Yes.
Which I mean, I worked in a warehouse where they audited. We used to pick parts with a scan gun and you put it in a container and drop it off. Great job. But they would have people who would go and audit, and people would get mad at them just because, you know, oh, they went and pulled my crate and I was missing a part or two. And it's like, well, that's your own goddamn fault. Just go get the part and fucking, you know, but they would take off of your bonus if you had so many errors and shit like that. And it was just like, well, do it fucking right the first time, you know, but like they would go hunting they would find certain people they didn't like and look to see if they were missing parts. And I was like, now that's being a cunt. And I was like, that's being something different. Sorry, I'm taking a sip of my drink. But this whole setup too, with him giving him his card, you know, he says he's been here for about 10 years. I like all of this because, again, seeing these titans that have never, until Grudge Match, have never worked together. And it's like, God, dude, I love the fact that it's just docile Stallone who barely says anything. And it's this De Niro who's just trying to pull this oil out of him. That's like, give me all you got, dude. Like, I want it. But I love that dynamic because it feels like it would be different. It feels like De Niro would be the docile, quiet character study, and that Stallone would be the cop. And then it's like, no, these things are swapped. And that feels so weird seeing Stallone just be like this, like,
but so right, weirdly. Like, you know, it feels so weird, but so right. Like, it works so well. I could not tell you just the joy that I had watching Stallone in this movie. It really kind of like threw me back to Rocky. Like, you know, like he plays Freddy very much like Rocky, like someone who is, you know, someone who speaks when spoken to, like, you know, that whole kind of thing. And like, you know, he wanders about, like, you know, he's just kind of like a presence, but he only becomes important when people talk to him. That, like, it really, really reminded me of Rocky.
Yeah, absolutely. And we kind of get this really after that, because we kind of get everything set up. He's like, listen, you can come talk to me. It's confidential. Basically, come be a snitch is what he's very quietly trying to say. We find out that Ray and Tilden were actually together at the academy, so they know each other, which is pretty cool. I like that. Yeah, there's this kind of, they look at him like a fucking rat. I love that. I love that it is this kind of like El Cosa Nostra, you know, thing. It is this kind of blood pact, and you don't rat on your brothers. And it's like, dude, that fraternal brotherhood of police bullshit, you know, it's like, which is, I mean, that happens here all the time as well. But I like that they look at him as just like a Judas. It's like, that's so interesting, man, because it's like, this movie really is the question of like, who watches The Watchmen? And it's like the only person with nothing on their hands in this movie is probably like Janine Garofalo, Liz, and Mo Tilden. Everybody else is dirty as fuck. Even Freddy's dirty. And it's like, dude, you had to have known. You've been here for 10 years. There's no way. It's like, there's no fucking way. And it's like, there's something about Tilden that's interesting to me because he's kind of the only like hero I guess in the typical sense. Like Freddy's a little bit more gray. He's like I wouldn't even say an anti-hero, but there's something. Freddy is not squeaky clean, but he's not like these guys either, and I really like that about him.
But I mean, that's something that's been set up in so many like TV shows and movies, dude. The fact that Internal Affairs is this kind of like, you know, the rats. Yeah, like I mean, like, have you seen? You haven't seen The Shield, I think, but
no. Or The Wire.
Yeah, well, see, the Wire doesn't so much deal with internal affairs. It's more about the Shield. So, the Shield is loosely based on Rampart. We talked about it, Crash Division, and all that stuff. So they bring in a lot of internal affairs stuff. So like, you know, I love that whole. Sorry, I'm not saying in real life. I'm not saying I love it. Like this whole idea of like brotherhood, right, amongst cops.
Ideally, yeah, sure,
yeah,
but
yeah, I mean, sure, but like, I mean, like, look at how much toxicity it leads to, right? I mean, like, you know, it's crazy. Yeah,
dude, I am a sucker. I am a sucker for a police corruption story. There's a great one in like Kentucky.
Dude. Yeah.
I'll send you it on YouTube. It's like this guy was selling the guns that he was catching these like meth dealers with, and they were making like hand over fist selling guns.
That's so easy to track, though.
It is, and literally these two reporters were like, "We want to see your inventory," and he was like, "Oh, the police station got broken into, and they stole all of our guns." Literally, was the story, and I was like, "Jesus Christ, man! It didn't end well."
That doesn't hold any water at all.
No, absolutely not. So we I think that I might have skipped over a part. I'm sorry. Oh, no. Yeah, he goes and he gets the stuffed animal. He talks to Tilden.
Smoking hot.
Oh, well, there's one scene that I like that's like right before that is when it's Ray and Jackie. It's Robert Patrick. And Robert Patrick's like, somebody's talking. And I love, you know, Freddy's like, hey, he's like, you can trust me. And he's like, listen, I don't trust you as in like these cops, but I trust you with my town every day when I go home. And it's like, this is how this guy has manipulated Freddy for years because he's just Play-Doh. You know, he knows that he can just turn this bitch out, no problem. And he'll do whatever he says. Yes, definitely smoking hot and probably still is. I haven't looked her up. But I mean, she was Tony's Guma in like the second or third season.
I remember.
Right?
Yeah, very early on. Mm-hmm. Well, actually, second or third. Maybe season 3.
Because the Russian chick is still going on in the first couple seasons. Right. I think.
No. She's gorgeous. Sorry.
Yeah, she is. We see she's married to Joey, another cop. I envy all those VHS tapes they have. I was like, oh, she's got Robin Hood on VHS. I'd love to just reach in and take one of those out. But I like this kind of, there's this kind of energy between the two of them where it's like, you know, I like the fact that the way they frame this, it's her in an open door with his whole life behind her. And then there's Freddy who's outside and it's like nice and pretty outside. And he's just very understanding and kind of simple. And I think there's so much stuff in Freddy where she's like, listen, he may not fuck like Joey and he probably doesn't. But good God, can this guy bake a casserole? You know, there's something about that, you know, that I really do. I think that he would cook an amazing casserole.
That's the Italian stallion, baby. You know he can fuck.
You know, Freddy's one of those.
Lay some pipe,
dude. Once he gets in there, he just turns into a freak. Like I love. Stallone. He goes into the evidence locker and just starts pulling out like hot, like fucking sharp knives and shit. And she's like,
Turns out like his niceness is just like a little facade. Like he's just like, I was just playing, baby. Welcome,
dude.
To the bed.
The whole time they were like dealing with this police corruption, and like two cities over, there's like a strangler, and it's fucking Freddy, and he's just strangling people. Someone with very meaty Italian hands strangled this person. But yeah, you kind of feel like a love lost between them. And I think that's definitely, there's a gaze when they look at each other that's very like, otro vida, another life, you know?
Yeah.
blah, blah, blah. We get this weird, she starts, I don't need this subplot. This thing, she's got trash in her yard. Joey and Rose, I guess, are banging each other. Okay, cool. But I don't need a scene of him going over there to ask her about it. Like, just throw a line of dialogue in, but like, are you still banging Ray's? Blah, blah. Like, I'm fine with that. I don't need the scene of him going over there. The way it ends, though, I do love, because he's like, oh, somebody's been dumping trash, a felony. And he just walks in the house. It's like, dude, you don't give a fuck about Freddie. It's such a throwaway thing. And let me see here. At a stop, when they pull over this couple, he kind of has this flashback, and we see what happened to his hearing. We see exactly, for the most part. We get the other part of it later, but you get the gist of it, that he went into the water and it fucked up his ear. Good casting for a young Stallone. And that is a solid movies. I feel like I'm a nitpicker about these, and I feel like movies never really do them that well. But that guy, it looks pretty similar at that, especially the nose and shit. It's like, oh yeah, that's like post nose job Stallone. It's like, this is definitely like the young version of him. Who sits under a bridge eating their lunch? What the fuck? What are you, the guy in Dennis the Menace? Like, why are you under the fucking bridge just hanging out? It's like, that's so weird. But you can tell it's him by the flannel shirt. You're like, oh yeah, that's him. But there's something interesting to me, and maybe I'm reaching, but it's like the incident that caused his hearing to fuck up, the most important thing that happened in his life, happened off of a bridge. And it's like, and this thing that reignited him to kind of come back to the fold and do the righteous thing is something that happens on this bridge. It's like, I don't know, maybe that's the kind of, maybe I'm reaching, but I just thought that was interesting, and to say in the least. This is where we get, oh shit, sorry, I lost my notes here. He relives the moment that he saved Liz in the car accident. We're introduced to her husband, Joey, at the bar. I like all this shit on TV. The mayor is like, yeah, like there might be evidence planted. I love, you see Artie Bucco sitting there smoking a cigarette. I was like, Artie Bucco, I don't even care what the actor's name is. That guy will always be Artie Bucco. And he is one of my favorite parts of The Sopranos. If I have not finished,
good, man.
I've not finished it. I don't know if he lives or dies. I assume he lives, but He's got
that annoying fucking bitch of a wife.
Oh my God. She pops up in this, but I have seen the, where he kind of like draws down on Tony, and I was like, oh, Artie, don't do that, please. Like, you're gonna get fucking killed. Please don't do that. Right move.
Oh, did you catch the guy that plays, I think his title is the PDA president?
Oh, hell yeah. That's Billy Batts, dude, motherfucker.
That's Billy motherfucking Batts. Real name, Frank Vincent, but also shows up in Sopranos as well.
Dude, big bad boy. Everybody, man. Like, and he's always kind of the same guy, but when you see him, you're like, dude, you are I love Paul Sorvino and Goodfellas. Like, but this guy to me is like the prototypical, the silver hair. Like, oh my God, come on, give him a pencil mustache and a pinstripe suit. Already.
Yeah, no, he's also in Do the Right Thing as well. So Do the Right Thing. Like, have you seen that? Like, it's
is that the Spike
Lee ones? Yeah. So he's driving through, and it's a really hot day, and basically these black kids in this neighborhood have opened up a fire hydrant, and they're just spraying water everywhere. And Frank Vincent's got this nice ass car, and all this water goes inside his convertible. And obviously he blames them because they're black, and you get down into that shit. But it's he pops up in a lot of stuff.
Shit, I didn't realize he passed away back in 2017. He's fucking 80 years old.
Well, I guess he popped up in a lot of stuff. Past tense.
Yeah, yeah. You know how old Robert Patrick is?
A million.
No, dude. I was sitting there going, okay, so Robert Patrick has to be because Schwarzenegger's 70. Robert Patrick is fucking 62. And I was like, whoa.
Oh, wow.
Like, dude, you're actually pretty young, comparatively. Like Stallone, and I guess he was 30 when they made T2, and Arnold was dude, fucking Stallone's 51. Like, all these guys are 40, 50. I think Robert Patrick, he's born in 58. So he would have been 30 when this came. Dude, he was younger than I am when this movie came out. No, it's not 58, 98. He'd be 40. Sorry. I was like, wait a minute. I was like, holy shit. Robert Patrick was younger than me. I was like, oh, I almost had I'm like, what am I doing with my life, dude? I'm
sitting here in this closet talking about a couple. I gotta go out and
I gotta go smoke. I gotta go smoke a cigarette. like I said, we're introduced to the husband at the bar. Figsy kind of lays out what happened exactly. Freddy saved Liz. He went deaf in one ear as a result. She married Joey. And, Freddy says he doesn't really care, but that's such a fucking, you can tell it's such a I don't really care. It's like, you fucking liar, man. I know the scene 30 seconds ago totally begs to disagree. After a heated discussion involving some missing evidence, Figsy punches out Jackie, and we are introduced to the dead character of Officer Tunney, or Tooney, I guess, however you want to say that. Tunney, Tunney, I guess.
Tunney.
And Ray is visibly angry at this, and Figsy leaves. This is great, dude. This is one of the best. He fucking wails Robert Patrick, the dart in the nose.
The dart in the nose.
How do you fake that? Because you can see the tip of his nose like rise, and you're like, dude, that's fucking in there, man. It's like something like my only issue with this scene is it's hard to figure out exactly what's going on. It's like, okay, so I think that what they're getting at is that Robert or Ray Liotta is snorting evidence that they, as far as this is what I'm understanding, is that there's 6 grams of cocaine missing. Because that one cop's like, hey, listen, man, that's not like a White Sox violation. They're not going to pin that, they're not going to ruin your career over 6 grams. So I think that, they're trying to figure out, because Robert Patrick says earlier, somebody is ratting on us, basically. And I think they're trying to say, they're asking him about it, saying, hey, have you been doing this? Or they're threatening to cut him out. I was just a little confused, but I love the scene. It's great. The whole thing where he's got Robert Patrick and he's like, fucking look at him, and he looks at Harvey Keitel, and he's like, you sit there with your back to him, and he's like, and you don't like me being here because it reminds you of that. And for a penny and for a pound, Ray. It's like, oh shit, shut the fuck up, dude. Shut the fuck up. You're gonna get killed. It's like, God, you're running your fucking mouth, dude.
This is like what you just said, like Artie Bucco drawing down on James Gandolfini shit. Like, this is you're cruising for a bruising here. Henry
Dude, don't forget who you came to 2 years ago to cover your ass. And then it pans in on Ray, and Ray's like, get him the fuck out of here. It's like, oh, shut up, dude. Like, you want it to go away, but I'm still here. In for a penny, in for a pound. He leaves. I'm getting the fuck out of this town. And I love Liotta, man. It's like, he's great. Like,
dude, he's so good here, right?
Yes. He is kind of a bit of a scenery chewer sometimes, but it's usually always good. It's until he starts popping up in like Sin City 2, A Dame to Kill For, that you're like, I don't know, that might not be the
I'm keen to see him in The Many Saints of Newark, which is the Sopranos prequel.
Is it the prequel before this? Because this is the Sopranos prequel. Come on, it takes place in fucking Jersey. Get out of here, man.
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
We get this domestic call between, Joey and his wife. We get basically, it's basically they're fighting. That's all, the whole reason that the scene is there.
Dude, he fucking just pretty much breaks down the door and just storms upstairs. It's crazy.
I think,
but again, Peter Berg, right? Like, you would not expect that this guy would go on to direct movies, starring The Rock and Mark Wahlberg, and Entourage, executive produce Entourage and Friday Night Lights and shit, like crazy.
Yeah, well, and it's super weird that he just kicks in this door with impunity because he knows Freddy's not going to pull him out and slap the cuffs on him. It's like, fuck you, bitch. What are you going to do? And it's this total disrespect for like, your Uncle Freddy's here to save you again. It's like, dude, your wife wouldn't even be alive right now if it wasn't for this guy. And he fucking went half deaf because of it. Like, what a prick, man. He goes home, he's sleeping. We have these dreams. We see more of Freddy's flashback. Him just slamming, dude, when the car tips and the window that was open I was like, like, oh my God. Like the fear of drowning in me cause I have a horrible fear of drowning. Like I will gladly be eaten by animals alive, but I cannot drown, dude. I couldn't do it. It's so terrifying to me. The prospect of water everywhere, but like kind of not enough to like too much to drink kind of thing. And like, that's what it's like. The thing that ultimately nothing can live without is killing you. And it's like, oh, that's so like, maybe I can just drink it all. Like maybe I can just like Like fucking Beer Fest, he starts chugging the. No, never mind. You never seen it,
dude. I'm not gonna fucking get that.
I'm never gonna watch it.
That is the biggest of a reference I've ever heard.
I know life. It's a fucking great movie though. Beer Fest is good. We get this flashback until we're interrupted. Figgis's house and his lady friend go up in flames. Ray is kind of suspected. He thinks they're getting payback and shit. Leota's great here. I could use one or two more scenes of this woman because it took me like 5 minutes ago. Who the fuck is? Oh, right. She's the one that was in the bar for 8 seconds earlier. Yeah, I was like, okay.
Yes. Wait, not Edie Falco.
No, the one who walks up the other when he's talking with Edie Falco. Cool. But see, like, and Robert Patrick does kind of mention her, and I get that. But still, though, dude, I feel like we're kind of cramming the bus full at this point. Like I'm forgetting more characters that I'm learning here. And there's a lot of shit that's going on. And it's like, I just need for a 2-hour movie, one scene with her is not going to kill anything. Like just even a mention or something. Basically, like I said, they kind of suspect Ray. He comes in, says he'll give him a couple weeks off. After Superboy's funeral, Freddy comes back to the office.
Sorry. I just wanted to quickly just touch on that. Timing wise in the script, it's really, really well written. I mean, like, you just have this scene with Figgis, just like threatening Ray and like, his crew and stuff. And then you see his house get burnt out. What, this is his house? No, this is his...
this is his house. Yeah.
Yes, this is his house. You see his house get burnt out. So timing wise, it absolutely makes sense, right? I mean, like, we don't find out until much, much later that Figgis was responsible for this act, right? So, like, if you're writing a script, that's fucking awesome. Like, that is such a great way of like, because you can absolutely tell that Mangold had this kind of like planned out before he sat down to write this, right? Like that's not something that you kind of like write later and go back and fix things up. That's like, oh shit, no, Mangold had this planned out from start to finish, like in terms of the timing of when things happen. I really appreciated this, dude. Like I really appreciated this scene, the house burning scene following the scene that we just saw. And then it turning out not to be the case. Really appreciated that. Such a great red herring.
Yeah, I like that, and I like it, but at the same time, I'm like, I kind of wish it was Ray, and I just wish that this was the thing that made Figgis go, you know what, I'm fucking out of here, and I'm done. Like, I don't. My thing is like, I feel like it's more motivation. Where like you have two people that are kind of spurned by Ray. You have Freddy and you have Figgis, and Figgis just runs away. And Freddy's like, no, I'm going to stay here and I'm going to fight for this. And I kind of wish that it was Ray that had attacked her because it's like, or burnt down the house and, ended up killing her.
Oh, absolutely. I do agree with you. Absolutely. I'm just saying like the way it does eventually pan out. I appreciate the foresight in terms of script writing, but I think, it makes, because ultimately, why does Figgis do this? Why does he?
I guess house down? I don't know. I like it because it is part of like, I'm trying to get the fuck out of this town and I'm getting the insurance money and she is an unfortunate casualty, but I'm getting the fuck out because shit's getting too like, you're hiding this kid in your house, but you have this giant party, and it's kind of like, I think that shit's getting too crazy and he also, I think that maybe he does this once he realizes they're trying to shut him out. And he's like, okay, something's going on here. I need to get out. And that is interesting motivation. But I feel like Figgis being like, I am loyal to you. Don't shut me out. And acting out. And then Ray takes retribution on him. I don't know. To me personally, that is more interesting than just all of a sudden him getting a hair up his ass and slamming on the brakes in the middle of the interstate and coming back to, Garrison. I don't know. As far as character motivation goes, I prefer him turning around because it's like, no, I love Freddy. You burned down my house. You killed somebody I cared about, and this has to stop. Like, I personally prefer that motivation a little bit more. But that's just me. I do think it's interesting how he shows up later on. It's like, oh, you burnt down your own house just to get the fuck out of here. I was like, okay, that's kind of cool too. I like that. But it's not a reveal that I need. It's not like, oh, everything makes sense. It's like, no, it's just another layer to this thing. Superboy's funeral. Oh yeah, after Superboy's funeral, Freddy comes back to the office to find Tilden waiting for him with photos of Ray with known mobsters and tries to persuade him to give info up on Superboy and the local cops. I also like him meeting with Frank Vincent, and they're like, "Oh hey, yeah, like you may be a sheriff now, but we can use you later on." I think I think that it is partly Freddy going, or it's Ray going, let's do damage control and try to get some people loyal. And what's the deal? Ray could have done this 5 years ago. Why are you waiting till now? And it's like, you're waiting till now because shit's starting to hit the fan. It's like you're doing favors so you can cash in on something later on. I feel like that's the only reason this is here. That's just kind of what my sixth sense picked up on.
Now go home and get your fucking shine box.
After, he comes back, finds Tilden waiting for him. He wants information on him. And he basically reveals that I see an island where my jurisdiction ends, an island where he's like, every house is owned by one of two mob banks, and that is your island. And he's like, no, you don't see that. And it's like, oh, the denial is strong in this one. Like, I love Stallone just shakes. He's like, nope, closes the file. He's like, that's not what you see. That's not my town. He's like, yeah, it is. Like, it is, motherfucker. You want to believe it or not. He kind of calls Freddy to action. He's like, listen, you've been sitting here. I see a cop who's waiting for something to happen, and now is your time to actually do something. And it's one of the only times you'll see these two guys ever work together. It's like, that's great. It's such a small scene, but I love it. How do you do this? The wives borrow the sugar, the white picket fences. Like, that's so Neil McCauley,
Right. Yeah. Like I see a man who's waiting for something to do. And like, here I am. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I love this. I dig this.
They have this weird, what does he pour? Was this in your version where Ray Liotta pours that cup out like into the water? I think it's her ashes, or it might be a drink for her. Still, director's cut, weird. But when they're coming back home, it's a weird scene. But when they're coming back home, fucking Ray Liotta singing like, won't you be my neighbor? It's like, oh, do you have this scene?
No.
No. Oh, dude, they drive out, they like spread her ashes, or they pour something out for her. I don't know what it is. But when they're coming back, he's just got his head up against the side of the car and he's singing the Mr. Rogers theme song. Won't Mr. Rogers be my neighbor? Yeah. And it's like, oh, that is fucking cryptic, man. It's like, that is so weird. Like, given the context that who isn't thinking that Ray burned down this house right now? So it's like, man, that is fucking scary. When you think of that song in that context, it's really great. Oh, yeah, and they throw this huge party, which is like, Jesus, dude, you are fucking asking for trouble. Like, this is so dumb. Right, like, as you're trying to hide this fucking person, this kid that's supposed to be dead, as you're supposed to be hiding him, you throw this huge party.
Dude, like, this kid's like, yeah, these are eyewitnesses, and, I mean, like, there's a moment here where Rappaport is going, like, to like somewhere privately with this girl before he's like interrupted. Mm. I'm just like, what, are you gonna pay this woman not to tell anyone?
Right.
Like, what are you gonna fucking kill her after?
You were on the cover of like the front page news, dude.
They just had a funeral for you. Like,
yeah,
I don't understand.
Like, I get the cops being quiet. I get that. You have like, right, 5 or 6 cop buddies over, but there's like women. There's like, hey, there's that cop that was in the news. There's like people dancing, pointing at him and shit. And they're like, what are you going to do? Kill everybody afterwards? Like, right. I don't know. Maybe that is to the extent that Ray has that power over them, but that was a little bit of a stretch for me. It was like, okay, maybe there's just them getting sloppy.
But I do love the, it's her aunt. It's his aunt, right?
Yeah, that's Rose. Yeah, Kathy Moriarty.
Right, that gives him the note, right, with the glass.
Yes, absolutely. That is such a cool. Oh, that feels like Shakespearean to me. That feels like something like Romeo passing the message, or the guy sending the priest sending the message to Romeo, and Romeo not getting it, kind of thing. Like, have you ever read Romeo and Juliet? Have you ever watched it?
Yeah.
Was it required for you guys?
Yeah, it was required. Yeah, absolutely.
It's awful. I hated reading it, but I love Baz Luhrmann's movie. I can't help it.
Then I defy you, stars.
Oh god, dude! I fucking when Leo DiCaprio wastes oh my god, Tybalt, John Leguizamo. I was like, come on, dude.
Yeah.
That's like, I think he's so fucking great. And like Leo DiCaprio hasn't done anything.
I love the opening of that movie, dude. Like, you know, we like when the. Sorry, I know we're spending a lot of time on this, but like the monitor comes up, like opens up, and it's just like the news reporter's ready, and it's like 2 households, and I was just like, and then the music plays like the really like over dramatic music, and we meet the cast and shit.
Yeah, and it's like you just play the music backwards. It's like pig squealing. No, I love that. Brian Dennehy, like Paul Sorvino. I fucking love that movie. Jamie Kennedy. He's like, when he and he bites his thumb at those, like, it's so goofy. But they're having this party. He gives her the note. And basically it's Frank Vincent who's like, hey, no body. We can't turn this case over. We got to have a body. You know, we got to have something going on here. And she passes him off the note. Dude, oh my God. Freddie showing up and him being like, Freddie, go home. I got this. And he's like, Ray, I can't. And he's like, I can't just go home. He's like, I have to. I think he's saying like, don't make me complicit in this. Like, you've got to let me have like plausible deniability. You know, it's like the cop that gets info for Tony in The Sopranos, the one who jumps off the bridge. He walks in and it's like, hey, let me see your liquor license in case somebody asks me or they put me on a polygraph. He's like, don't make it seem like something. Make it seem like
you're talking about the dad from Home Alone. Okay.
Yes. Yeah. But I think that's kind of what Freddie's doing. He's like, dude, don't make me a part of this and don't make me a gopher or just some kind of annoying little kid. Right. I can't just walk away from this. There's a noise complaint, you know, other people who are not cops are complaining. Without no body, the case won't go away. Ray tells Freddie to stop thinking so much and he sends him away. Rose tries to warn Superboy. And right before we go to break here, this scene, Liz makes a pop in at Freddy's and says it's a funny thing owing someone your life, and the two embrace. I like that scene a lot. The Bruce Springsteen in the background is a little heavy handed for me, but
a little cheesy.
But there is something. I just love the. Oh God, I can't remember what the song is. It was like, I'm driving an old Ford car. And like, oh dude, I don't really love Bruce Springsteen. But there are songs of his that I'm like, God damn, I'm driving a stolen car. It's like, yeah, man. It's not
pay me. You couldn't pay me. If there was a Bruce Springsteen song playing, you couldn't pay me to even guess that was by Bruce Springsteen.
Come on. Hold on.
Born in the USA.
You can't start a fire. You can't start a fire without a spark. This gun's for hire, even if we're dancing in the dark.
Are you speaking Swahili right now?
Oh my God, Zoheb, come on,
Here's
dude.
the thing, though. Springsteen is so USA. He's so American, yeah. Dude. Mm-hmm. Like, no, we don't, dude. I feel like Chadwick Boseman in fucking Infinity War. We don't do that here.
We don't do that here. Yeah, well, and he. God bless the Killers, but like Bruce Springsteen ruined that band, and now the dude from the Killers just wants to be Bruce Springsteen. They actually just did a Killer song together. But if you listen to Springsteen and now you listen to current Killers, it's like, dude, get your own style. Like, I don't know. Yeah. I love, dude, Hot Fuss is probably my favorite album of all time. Like, but after Day and Age, it gets a little weird and they start turning it into like everything's about the desert and a girl and the farmland, and it's like, I don't know. That's a rant. That's something separate. But
sounds like you've got something to get off.
I will. You know what? I love the Killers, and they turned into fucking some weird shit at the end, and I don't like it. And I was like, no, bring back like we bring the bump to the grind. I'm like, come on, give me that again, man. Anyways, but they embrace. I love this scene. You know, it's not like they just fuck the shit out of each other, and it's not just that
they're just kind of like hug, right?
I think there's like a little peck in there. I think there's a little smoosh. You know, and I like the fact that it's her that kind of is just like, you know, that I feel like this kiss has been a kiss that has been permeating for like 20 years. And it's like, man, that is crazy to watch these people who are like, how old was Stallone? 18 when she wrecked, maybe, that kid looked really young. And it's like, you're like 50 here. Like, dude, it's been 30 fucking years. It's like, this has been a long time. But I like the fact that it's not, I love in movies like this where they acknowledge the romance, but they don't like, we have to physically act on it and fuck right now. And it's like, no, right. You can just acknowledge the elephant that's been in the room for 3 decades. And I'm fine with that. But what we'll do here, let's take a break because we're about to get this scene with Superboy and the pool. And I need to fill up my drink and get my gun from the shower. No, I'm just kidding. Guys, we'll be right back. Don't go anywhere. Coming back with the second half of our coverage of Copland.
Hey guys, what's going on? Colin jumping in here in the middle. Just kind of let you know some stuff that's going on at Midnight Double Feature. First off, please stop by and rate and review us on iTunes. Let us know how we're doing. It helps out so much. It takes 5 seconds and it's free. So there you go. We would really appreciate it. Also, you can find us on our socials. We're on Facebook at Midnight Double Feature. We're on Instagram at Midnight Double Feature. We're on Twitter at MDF Pod. Please also join the group that we have attached to our Facebook page. It's called the After Party. Everybody's invited. That group has been really expanding and we're really excited to see where it's going. We can also find our website, midnightdoublefeature.com. We got our merch there. If you want to know something, you want to find us on our socials, you want to see what all's going on, that's kind of like our main hub. That's really where to find it if you want it. We also have a podcast for Breaking Bad that we have going on. It's called Bad Crystal. It's an interesting show where I actually haven't seen any of the episodes of Breaking Bad. Zoe has seen it like 15 times, and he's kind of leading me through it. I'm experiencing it for the first time with a veteran, and it's an interesting dynamic, and it's a lot of fun. And lastly, if you really want to support the show and really put all your cards on the table, we do have a Patreon. That's patreon.com/midnightdoublefeature. It's $5 a month. There's only one tier. You get all access to everything that we've got going on. We've got bonus episodes. We've got off the rails kind of stuff. We've got a lot of stuff that's not going to make it to the main page, and there's a lot more geared for Patreon kind of stuff. So we really hope to see you guys over there. Like I said, plans start at $5 a month and end at $5 a month. That's the only one that we've got going on. We really hope that you guys can join up there, and we will hope to see you soon. See you guys later. Bye-bye.
Hello, boys and girls. Welcome back to Midnight Double Feature, coming at you with the second half of our coverage of Copland. We are freshly squeezed, ready to go. We got our guns out of the shower, and we are ready to be drowned. This honestly, it shocked me because I was like, oh, they'll just take him out back and shoot him. And it's like, oh no, he kind of has to look like he drowned. Yeah. And I was like, oh, fuck. Like this, there's things that this movie does, and this is one of them that's really well. As they're doing it, you go, wait, why? And you go, oh, logically, fuck, of course you would. Oh man, that is so. I love movies like that are like, we got to drown him to make sure it looks like he drowned. And it's like, it's not something, it's not a weird ADR line or anything like that. It's just so menacing too. Everybody's gone. It's just Harvey Keitel. Robert Patrick wraps around the back. It's like Coyotes.
That is, it's so intimidating, right? Like when they just show up and you're just like, oh, well, this is not going to go well for you,
For real.
And like this is such a well-played scene, like in terms of the look on everyone's faces and the mood, the tone of this. Like this is not a normal conversation, right? Like, that was a great party, Ray. Ray doesn't say anything. He just stands there, looks at him, like, because a part of him regrets this. Like, he's like, I got to do this. Like, this has got to be done. Whereas like Robert Patrick kind of like, he lives off violence, right? You get the sense that he lives off this shit.
There's something, as I was watching this, is like, it feels like Henry Bowers in it. It feels like Ray is Henry Bowers, but in the Stephen King universe, whatever, the worst guy is Patrick Hockstetter. And he's like the maniac in the group that like locks animals in a fridge out in the middle of nowhere and just kills them. Like he's a psycho.
The one that looks like Kylo Ren in the remake, right? No,
Yes, that's him. That's Patrick Hockstetter. That's Robert Patrick in this movie. Robert Patrick to me is the one who's like, I will do anything. Like, but it's kind of interesting because when Joey falls, I think he's kind of like, okay, whoa, I am not Patrick Hockstetter. I am Henry Bowers. Ray is Patrick Hockstetter now. Like, oh man, that scene is great. But they, of course they try to drown him. He ends up shooting his way out. Joey pulls up for some reason. I don't know. I guess he's implicated in this now. But he pulls up and runs away. I love that. He's like, oh, you said you were going to set him up somewhere. He's like, do you really think I'm all that, Joey? And it's like, yeah, you naive motherfucker. Like, do you really think I could get him out? Like, do you really think I'm that powerful to just make somebody a new life? Like, come on, dude. Yeah, it's like I can cover up killing somebody. I can't make a new person.
It can't be that tough, right? I don't know. I mean, like,
with his connections, I don't know.
Keep driving him across state lines. Keep, because I mean, like, obviously they've moved from New York to Jersey, so they've already broken state lines. But like, just keep driving him across. Like, fucking set him up in the middle of Oregon. Oh, sorry, in the middle of fucking Texas or some shit, and just be like, hey, this is your new life now.
Yeah,
this is. I don't know. I don't know.
I don't. Yeah, I don't think it's out of the reach for like the mob and the NYPD, but I feel like that would be like, okay, you're like mad flexing now. I think this is about as hard as you can flex. Like, right. Really. Let me see here. Oh yeah, so Superboy, he ends up escaping the drowning, and the case gets closed in internal affairs. I love the whole thing. It's just go to lunch, go to lunch. Oh man. I feel like these are the scenes that De Niro's like, I'm gonna like this. I'm gonna enjoy this. It's like I feel like in the back of his head he's like, I can be me now.
That's such a De Niro characteristic, like the repetition of lines. And like the second and third time is always.
What did I say? What did I say?
What did I say? The pointing, the double finger thing. You take that coat and get the fuck out now.
Dude, it's like Heat when he confronts Ashley Judd and he's like, shut up. He's like, listen, you will give him one more chance. If not, I will set you up personally. He's like, clean up and go home. And it's like, oh God, that is so fucking boss. But yeah, the pointing, always with the pointing. But just, I mean, literally watching all the work that they've done just be stacked up to nothing is like, oh, this feels like almost like Zodiac to me. Like, I love the way that this is shot. This almost felt like Zodiac. I was like, man, this is so 70s. His hair, that tie is like, dude, this is so 70s.
I definitely got like True Detective vibes, like the first season of True Detective. Like, there's a lot of like them in the office kind of like thing. But yeah, no, totally, 100% agree.
And we see, basically after that, he's like, pack it in, we're fucking done. I think there's this weird little scene where they're trying to figure out like Figsy's insurance thing, and it's like, why is this? Like, is yours in there? Where he's like, she's gonna fuck up my insurance claim. It's like, I don't really think that I need this 10-second scene. It's weird. Because really the next scene
is Joey and Ray. Yeah, Joey, Ray, fucking T-1000. Yeah.
Right. And that, I think they're basically saying like, hey, we want you to help, hunt this guy down. It's time to kind of, because he has, you don't really get the sense that Joey is like a part of these guys and he's implementing these things. I feel like this is kind of like, he's kind of like a rookie almost. It's like, nah, like, now is your time to step up and like whack somebody, kind of thing.
Yeah, but I love that there's this understanding of like who these people are. Like, there's this like mutual understanding of like everyone knows who Keitel is and who Robert Patrick is, and like that whole group, everyone knows who this little. It really reminds me of The Shield, and like I sucks that you haven't seen The Shield, but like in The Shield, there's like they call the strike team, right? Like they're a group of 4 police officers inside this unit, and everyone kind of knows that they're a little bent, and I don't mean like homosexual, but like they're like completely like. Not on the take and all that. But like, there's just this mutual understanding that we are not going to give these guys up because they can probably destroy us.
Right. Yeah. And there's something too about like, about because after this, really, we get the scene. Joey basically refuses to no, I'm not going to do anything. And we get the scene with Ray Liotta talking to Stallone. Is that in your version where he's talking about going parallel? Like you got to run parallel.
Oh.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. This is that scene, and there's a couple of interesting things here before we get to that parallel scene where he's talking about, if Liz went into that water today, I'd stand there and I'd think about it, and that's the best thing I ever did with my life. And it's like, fuck, you feel so bad for Freddy, but at the same time, it's like, dude, you've got to get up and do it, though. It's like you can't just sit around and like wait for something to happen to you. You need to happen for you. It feels like this is a guy who never took a risk. That's what really it feels like to me. And that was the one time he did. And, he's got this permanent, hearing loss, but he's a fucking hero, and it's kind of interesting that his whole life is this town, and it feels like it's kind of hinging on this one moment. It's almost like that football player who got that awesome touchdown or, one state championship, and it's like Uncle Rico almost, like still hanging on to it a little too hard. So I'm like, I feel like he hasn't moved on from this moment, that it's like, this is where my life went a direction I was not expecting. And I thought that it was going to be like this. And it's like, dude, you got to stop living in the past. There's something about him that's like, you're living in the past, man.
Well, I like the idea that the first time he did it, right, like him saving her from drowning. I like the idea that he was permanently scarred from it, right? Like the hearing. Mm-hmm. So him being permanently scarred from rescuing this woman from drowning prevents him from wanting to do it again, because who knows what the next permanent scar would be. Right. Like who knows. Like, he might not walk away from the next one. So I love that, like, they add a little bit of like reasoning for him to be trepidatious about this. Mm-hmm. Trepidatious, is that a word?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, because there's people who are like, yeah, I'd jump in, and it's like, well, you don't think like, yeah, maybe you won't die, but maybe you go blind. Maybe something happens to your ear. Like,
dude, literally, like can you imagine how many people would be watching this movie and be like from their fucking comfort of their couch and just being like, yeah, I'd jump in. I'd jump in. Yeah, no worries.
I got it. Yeah. But this whole scene with him talking about running parallel is kind of makes sense, but also doesn't make sense. And I'm like, I don't know. I was kind of confused by it, because like I get what you're saying. Basically, don't ever stop like moving. You want to be taking rights, and you don't ever want to get stopped at a red light and you just get stuck and you hit traffic. Like I used to do a lot of DoorDash and shit. Like I absolutely get what you're saying. If I came out to a red light, I'd hit a right and find some kind of. Oh, really cool. Yeah, I had a lot of fun doing it. But the thing was like, if I know that this light is going to take a while, yeah, you cut right and then see if you can cut a left and get around and stuff. But the way he's talking is like every single time you hit a red light, you just turn right. I'm like, yeah, but then you're just going around the same block like an asshole. You just keep taking rights because there's no green light. Like, what the fuck? But I like what he's saying is that he's like, listen, you're trying to tackle a problem that the traffic is the opposition, and that's the cops. That's this whole town is raised. He's like, you've got to go at it at a sideways angle. You've got to run parallel and swing your way in. You can't just run at it head on. I do like that. I like what he's saying. He's like, it's everything. He's like, it's life. You can't just run head on to that. You've got to make a move on the side and, catch it off guard. And I like what he's saying there. I think that's really cool. But dude, the fucking scene with Joey getting attacked and the cop like laying there all cut up, and you're like, oh shit, man.
This guy, what is this guy? This guy's a fucking savage, man.
This guy's like a video game mini boss. Like as I was watching, I was like, Jesus, dude, he's
like a Grand Theft Auto villain.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's Method Man. Like Method Man and Redman.
I thought so. It was Method Man.
Yeah, I thought so too.
I was like, this guy looks really, really familiar. Yeah.
Well, I was watching it, and he's kind of like choking him up against a thing. And it's like, is he fucking him? I was like, is he raping this dude? and I was like, is he just like the struggle? He's kind of like propping him back up. I don't know. It's just weird. But he tosses him over that thing, and just how he's holding on. Oh.
Method Man shows up in The Wire towards the end, and he's fucking awesome.
Oh yeah. He's good, man. I like him. I remember playing as him in Def Jam Fight for New York. Those were great games. I played the fuck out of that game. Very good game. GameCube. GameCube on GameCube back in the day. Rented it from
one of the 10 people who bought a GameCube. Nice.
Yeah, hell yeah, dude. Well, GameCubes were pretty popular around here. I know a lot of people with them. You asshole. The Harvey Keitel looking up and seeing him dangling and just closing the door is so dark, dude. It's so like worst of humanity type shit, dude.
But you know what? I love that this, like, even this shakes fucking, goddamn it, Robert Patrick. Yeah, like he's just like, Ray, we know him.
Yeah,
we know
he's
him,
looking
dude.
at him on that roof, like, what the fuck, man? You know, and the whole he's picking the lock, and it's like, kick the goddamn door in, you know?
Right? Yeah, no, totally. Like they're all just like, Ray, let's just break the thing down. Like, come on, Ray, let's just do this. I really want to shout out the music here, man. Like, as the music's just crescendoing and crescendoing and crescendoing until we build up. It feels a lot like Seven. Do you remember Seven when we meet Sloth? So, you know, like Dex, you know, like they're finding the air fresheners dangling from the ceiling. There's a lot of like setup until we get to the moment, and the music that plays before we get to the moment is just so incredibly, man. Like, this is the moment where I was like sitting on the edge of my seat because I could not remember what happened to Joey. I was like, oh shit, yeah, this is a brilliant moment, but also Harvey Keitel in a beat cop's uniform. I was like, you're a little old for this.
Yeah. I mean, because well, no, I guess he'd be De Niro's age. It's like not quite. Because there's older beat cops. You know, there's people who don't move up, I guess. You know, I guess there's people who stay at that, you know, stay at that rank. Especially if you've got his setup. Fuck it. You know, like I wouldn't want to get promoted either.
Yeah,
people start asking questions.
That's true. No.
The motherfucker owns a goddamn town. But oh man, that's just fucking brutal. Them looking down, his leg being buckled and just all twisted up. But he falls, and then we got Superboy making a visit over to Freddy's. He runs off because he sees, you know, Figsy. They chase after him. You know, basically they're not able to find him. But this is the moment that he kind of. I think this moment where Freddy's like, I'm going to go to New York and get this kid out of here. And what I love is the shot of him walking up the steps, and it's very like ascending from darkness. Like William Friedkin was talking on the director's commentary, Exorcist. And he's like, if you watch, there's a lot of recurring motifs of Karras walking up steps. And he was like, and I did that on purpose because I wanted to show this ascension in him. And I was like, yeah, and that's, I think, totally what's on display here. It's just him in the dark, and it gets lighter as he goes up. And you're like, yes. And then you see Edie Falco, and you're like, oh, bitch. Oh, bitch. As soon as I saw it, I was like, oh, man, that is not going to fucking end well for you. And it's like, you know, this is getting back to Ray. And it's like, God, it's like Hydra. You know, it's like you have fucking agents in all lands. It's so crazy. But you know, they end up, there's some other shit that happens too. I guess they end up burying Joey. And then once he goes in there to see Robert De Niro, he's like, you blew it. You had a shot and you blew it. It's like, I love that. He's like, that was 2 weeks ago, dude. That, like, where have you been? Right. I offered you a chance and now we're shut out. You know, your buddy made one phone call and now we're fucking done. He's like, even if I wanted to, I couldn't do anything now. And I love that he's playing him when he leaves. He's like, if that cupcake makes a mess, we've got a case again. It's like, I love that he's kind of like, I hope this guy goes out there and paints the fucking town red, because if he does, we're back in the game, you know?
We're back in the game. Yeah, no, I like that he's... But like, see, this is one of the reasons that I'm thinking, like, oh, is Freddy a little bit of a... like, you know, like he's a bit on the spectrum?
I mean, it wouldn't surprise, especially now what we know, you know, about like the spectrum and stuff. Sometimes it's just like, there's something about him that he is almost like Mark Ruffalo in Avengers. Like, he's almost that, like, I could totally see it's like, hey, we're going to get Sylvester Stallone to play Bruce Banner. It's like, he's going to be the Hulk. It's like, no, he's going to be Bruce Banner. It's like, if you put him in some glasses and a purple shirt, it's like, I totally fucking buy it. But there's something where he's just so, you know, because Rocky's kind of the same way, but Rocky's not dumb. It's just, he's not book smart, but he's very street smart. And I think that that's something kind of about him where, like, socially, yeah, he might be a little bit more inept, but he's not dumb. Like, he plays the parts. He plays the parts, like, well. And he's
observant, you know, like he's weirdly like observant, you know.
He's like an owl, you know. It always seems like he's just taken in the room. He always seems like he's absorbing everything. But But basically, he tells him, I offered you a chance to be a cop and you blew it. I fucking love that. And just seeing Stallone just like so fucking defeated, but sitting in the presence of real big city cops and being the sheriff who's like, yep, I slipped on the banana peel and
In
just
the
having
city.
to leave.
Like, obviously, like, you know, he's had to travel out here. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, man. And again, he says, you know, he makes a mess. We got a case again. He steals some files on his way out. Okay, fine. This is a police. I guess this is like, you know, pre 9/11. Nobody has badges and has to scan into anything. Like, what the fuck? He just picks up a file off a table. But it's like, dude, this is a story of police corruption that's probably 30 minutes away. And it's like, here's all the evidence. Like, anybody could just walk in there and grab shit. Yeah, Freddy leaves defeated, but with files on his fellow cops and neighbors. Finally putting things together, Freddy admits the mob does own the town and uses the 37th precinct, the 37 as they like to say, the 37 to run drugs, which is interesting. He kind of lays out everything.
The 37.
That's what they keep saying. It's like, oh, I'm at the 1-4. It's like, why did you say I'm 14th precinct? Like, yeah. I don't know. Maybe there's some weird logic, but I like this, that he kind of like, because the story is kind of like, okay, what are all these connections? I get it. This guy's bad, and they're doing something together, and what does this all amount? And basically, he kind of puts all the cards on the table, and I like that. I like that, yes, for the most part, I understand what's going on, but when you really start flipping through and seeing the fact that the mob owns this whole fucking town, and then he throws in just a line of dialogue, they're running drugs through the 37. It's like, oh, okay, cool. There's a piece. I got it. Like that's what they're talking about with Figsy at the table. There's cocaine that's missing. You know, he's been snorting, like you see him clean in the director's cut, at least, like he cleans coke off of a mirror, Stallone, and he finds it in the bathroom. And it's like, oh, so
yes, that is in the theatrical as well.
Okay. Yeah. So that's the issue with Figsy. They're running drugs to the department, and he's maybe doing a little bit too much. And maybe IA's onto him because some drugs are missing and they don't trust Figsy. I was like, okay, cool. Now everything really clicked for me at this point. And I was like, all right, I'm happy with this. Like, it's not spelling it out for me like a complete fucking idiot, but it definitely is more blatant than other films that I've seen. Cindy quits. I like that. She's like, listen, I'm fucking done. I'm getting the fuck out of here. I don't care about this place. I've been here for like 8 months.
Hey, makes sense. This is some powerful enemies, you know?
Oh yeah, exactly. And you're just like a rookie cop. Like, hell no. You know, and Freddy, he ends up getting threatened by the officer Lagonda. This guy Lagonda, because there's like 3 or 4 of them. He was an actual cop for decades, and he was undercover. And I saw he's the one who's in the car when there's this, again, director's cut maybe, where Freddy gets into the car and there's a guy in the seat behind him with a gun. That and he's like, listen, he's like, where's Superboy? And he's like, if I knew, he'd already be in the city by now. That might be director's cut.
Yes. No, I've got this. Sorry, yes, I do.
No, you're cool. Yep. That guy was a real cop for like decades, and he was an undercover cop who like bought and sold drugs and shit.
How about
that? Yeah, and then Figsy gets his insurance check. You know, here's my thing is like, what is on the bag? You know what I'm talking about? When he looks and sees the check, and Figsy's in the bathroom, and he kind of touches the NYPD bag, and it looks like it's got some kind of substance on it. Is it just blood? Like, or is that scene even in your version?
No, I'm trying to have a look. I can't see.
No, it probably doesn't.
It might be because it's substance, but it's also white. I'm wondering if it's like cocaine ingrained in it or something.
I don't know. I could, because it's this. I think it's the same bag Edie Falco dropped off, and it's like, is it a burn mark on the? I don't know. But this is where basically he gets his insurance check, and Freddy, it seems like it's almost burnt because Freddy goes.
Yeah, that makes a lot more sense that it is burned.
That to me, I don't know, you know, but that's when he goes to Figsy's old house, and Figsy shows up. I burnt it down. I didn't know Monica was inside. And that is again a cool revelation, but I don't want to harp on it again because we spent so much time. But like, I would love if this is where, you know, basically, I don't really need the scene. I don't need him figuring out that I don't know. To me, it's not.
This goes on for so long too. Like him walking through the.
Yes, but I do love the dialogue in it because everybody in this town is going to tell the truth for once. It's like, oh, that's so like, put your fucking chips on the table, motherfucker, because I'm done after this. Like, everybody's coming clean. We're dragging all this shit out into the light, and it's like, oh my god, dude, this town is like, it's going to collapse though.
Yeah.
Like, this whole town's going to die if you do that.
And I just love anytime Sylvester Stallone raises his voice, right? This whole town is gonna learn. That's all it's gonna do.
Oh, dude.
Yeah.
I was watching something when he was born. They used forceps to get his head out. I guess
I
his
read
head
about
was too
this.
big.
Yeah, I read
They
about this.
pinched some kind of nerve, and you can kind of see in one of his eyes. It's a little fucked up. Have you seen his daughters?
No,
Sylvester Stallone's daughter? Dude,
No.
oh my good God. Like, because I follow him
What's
on
up?
social media, and I was just like, Jesus Christ. Like, good God. Which, I mean, I can't remember what his wife's name is, their mom, but good God. I mean, she's absolutely gorgeous too. That's just some good genes in that family.
Sweet
but,
Jesus, what? That's
yeah.
his daughters?
Yeah, I told you. And it's like, good God. I think they run a business or they do a podcast. I can't remember what it is. But anyways, I'm sure this is wildly entertaining for everybody else. Freddy snoops around the house. You know, Figsy admits that he burned it down, didn't know Monica was inside. Freddy goes to Ray's house, to Ray's and home. I love she goes to close the door and he just catches it. And it's like, oh, like it's the most active Freddy has been the whole movie. Is when she goes to shut the door in his face and he stops it and he was like, I'm here for your nephew. I am his only chance. And you see her face kind of like, holy shit, I've never seen this guy talk like this before. He's like, give up where your nephew is. And he ends up going to the water tower, which I thought was awesome. I've always been fascinated by these giant water towers because we had like 2 or 3 of them in my town growing up. And I was like, I am terrified and so fascinated by that at the same time.
Yeah, we don't have these in our, anywhere in Sydney. This is not a thing.
I kind of figured, but I was like, well, I don't know. I guess like with fires and stuff, maybe that's something that they do. I was like, well, I guess not. Like,
But
I don't even know.
Oh, sorry.
I don't even know what we have them for. Do we just tap into them and shit when we're thirsty? I have no idea. Like, what do we have?
Yeah, like what's the use? But like,
Yeah.
I love that. Like, we've been seeing this water tower pretty much in a lot of scenes in this entire movie, and come to find out that it plays an integral role in the movie. It's good stuff.
Yeah, I like that. Does your version have the scene of him at the fair? There's like that 4th of July fair.
Yes.
He's like, you got to make the next 5, and he makes all 5,
Yeah,
and I was like,
yeah.
ooh, it's so like
guess
bitch,
he's
like
not
it's so like
retarded. Guess he's not
it's
retarded.
it's like that Always Sunny. Have you seen that where they're like D dates a retarded guy episode?
I think so. Yeah, from memory.
It's
yeah,
so
that
fucking
sounds
good, dude.
familiar.
He like raps his ass off at the end. They're like, okay, so he's definitely not retarded. I gotta say, underage drinking, a national concern, is the best episode of Always Sunny I've ever seen. It's
Okay.
like one of the first 2 seasons where all the kids take over the bar. It is so fucking funny, dude.
Yes. No, for me,
is so
it's the
good.
one where they try and solve the oil crisis.
I haven't seen that one.
Dude, it's
I've
early.
only watched till
It's early. They start
Is
their
it?
own little business, and they get oil drums. They try and sell oil. Oh, it's so
Oh
fucking
yeah,
good.
and he's like, it's like gas for sale, like on
Yeah,
the side of the
yeah.
road. I love Frank Reynolds. I love when he's like, I you know what? I used to do this shit when I was younger too. I used to get over on people, and I was a low life. And they're
He's
like, what
so
the fuck, dude?
disgusting in that show, dude. He's so disgusting.
So Freddy finds Superboy up in the water tower. He takes him back in. They go to the station. I don't. Harvey Keitel is so hit and miss for me. I'll be honest. There's some movies where he fucking is so good, and then there's some movies where it's like, what is this coming from? And I guess that, whatever, you're an artist, you're an actor, you do your thing. But this scene is just like, this tiny little man is terrifying, and he's not even like standing up. Just tell me where he is, Freddy. And he's like, well, there's got to be a way out of this for all of us. Like, and I think that he's right. Ray is kind of right about Freddy. He was like, listen to me, Freddy. He's like, you're a boy. You made the plans of a boy. And he was like, every boy thinks that every hand is the best. And you made your fucking plan on the back of a matchbook and you didn't think things through. You didn't see the cards. And he is kind of right. He's like, listen, you can't just, you're not thinking parallel. You're charging at this bull head on. And you're a boy playing a man's game. You're very naive about how all this is going to go down. But I love, he's like, who the fuck he's like, if we leave, what's going to happen to this town? And Stallone's like, he's like, the more and more I look around, the more I don't like what I see. And he's like, who the fuck do you think you are? He's like, I'm the sheriff of Garrison County. I was like, oh, that's badass, dude. And you think it's kind of going to end there, but he's like, then be a sheriff and protect these men. And it's like, yeah, there is kind of this like loyalty
responsibility.
That he did. Yeah. And he did set you up in this position, but like none of these guys respect you. You're a Gomer Pyle. You're oh shucks. Like you're this goofy motherfucker to them. And you're kind of a can't get right to them, like there's something where it's like, oh, that's old so-and-so, he's been working there for 40 years in the same position. Like, but this is a great monologue from what did you think of this when you first saw it? Cause I was fucking blown out of the water. I was like, holy shit, this is some of the best shit I've ever seen Harvey Keitel in.
You're talking about this bar scene, right? Where they're all sitting around.
Yeah. Right. Where he's like, just give me the keys and tell me that you dropped the keys or go home and go to bed and,
Now, I'm confused because this scene is before he goes to Robert De Niro.
Oh, so yours is even edited strangely.
Yeah, this is weird because this is like Robert De Niro, like this scene takes place before Robert De Niro goes, oh, you blow it. Like this is way before.
So yours, he already has Superboy, and then he goes to see De Niro, right?
In mine, yeah. Well, no, he doesn't already have Superboy. He doesn't know where Superboy is. Like he hasn't discovered him in the water tower at all.
See, because that's what he's already found him in the water tower in mine, and then in this one, this is where he's like, I'm taking him in at 6 a.m. And he was like, well, if there's nothing I can say that can change your mind. You don't have that. See, this is the weird shit that we get with like director's cuts and regional stuff.
Yeah.
Because do you have the scene in your version at all, or is it gone?
Tell me about the scene because I don't think I've got it.
It's where he just walks in because he's got him in the back of the car. He puts him in the station and then he walks across the street and Noah Emmerich is at the bar and he's like, oh, it's just club soda. And he's like, finish it. And nope. He goes and talks to Ray.
Don't have that at all because I've got Superboy in the prison, in the jail, and then he goes to move him, and then as soon as he like exits the jail, he gets jumped by Robert Patrick and that other guy.
Oh my god!
And then that's when you get the gunshot to the ear, and then
yeah, and that happens right after that. Noah Emmerich basically bails, and then they go out the next morning and then, that's when, but dude, please look that scene out because Harvey Keitel is like, you didn't look at the cards. He's like, you bet everything. He's like, you made a boy's bet. It's like, oh shit. It is fucking awesome.
Love Keitel.
He's like, I invited men out here, good men to protect their families. It's like, you kind of understand where he's coming from, but at the same time, it's like not there. I strongly urge anybody, if you're watching the theatrical version, please look that up. It's fucking really great. But after they get back, Noah Emmerich bails. I love Stallone just slowly loading up the shotgun. Ray Liotta, he finally has a, turn of heart and just slams on the brakes, which makes me, I love, it's very dramatic, but I'm like, but you're still going to have to go forward. Like, you're still going to have to get off on an exit. Like there's if he had pulled off dramatically or something. Okay, cool. But him slamming on his brakes, it's like, what do you think? You're going to bust a Yui? Like,
right.
It kind of made me laugh.
Right. I mean, like there's
moments
like that
exit
in a lot of movies. Yeah. It's just one of those turning points.
Mm-hmm. But it's finally the next morning. Like you said, they get out there. God, dude. Oh, it's just the good ear, huh? Bang. Like, oh, dude. Oof. I was genuinely shocked when they did it. I was like, oh, fuck. Like,
dude,
that's done.
The yell that he does after that, the fucking Hercules. Crazy.
It's amazing, man. That's like one of the best. And he sells it so well. And this is not a guy who the whole movie, I mean, he's not emotionally expressive. So when you see blood coming out of his hand and him, it's like the pain must be immeasurable. Cause you got to think how that's going to fuck up the other ear that's already damaged. Like, does that hurt a wound that's already there? It's so good, man. Stallone in his like long white socks, you know, with his, I was like, oh my God, dude. And it's kind of crazy when you watch these movies now and everybody's like, oh yeah, fucking Robert Patrick T-1000. Oh yeah, Stallone, Rocky. It's like, dude, it's like for a brief moment, all these amazing actors and genres like eclipsed one another. And it's like all these, all these things happened at once. And it's like, God, this is Stallone's movie, but it's also like, it's 2 hours long. I think there's enough room for everybody. And they do such a great job kind of like shifting things around to see other people's perspectives, but it's like a character piece, but at the same time, like it's definitely like an ensemble thing. But really we're kind of winding down because he walks. I love that. Is so Western, man. That is so Western.
It feels like he fucking walks across the entire continent, right?
Yes.
Like,
when he walks up that hill,
blood.
I just wanted like, wow. Just like tumbleweeds.
Yeah.
Yes. Like a cowboy hat comes floating down the street, like Kramer gets the pimp hat in Seinfeld, and he puts it on. But because I was like, dude, that's a lot of blood, his earbud. But I think the bullet slices him in the cheek or something, because that is a lot of blood. Like that's like, you want to get that shit checked out. But he rocks up, and I think that there's something so awesome about the fact that he's like completely deaf running through this. And he's like, nope, I'm no longer going to hear the bullshit. Like, I'm no longer going to hear the, oh, we got it. No. It's okay. You know, it's like, no, like it's kind of been this, Freddy has been this kind of like hear no evil, see no evil, speak no evil kind of thing. And now it's like, I don't know. There's something so poetic about that, of showing up and being like, I've let this shit fall on deaf ears for so long, and now it's literally like I'm deaf killing you. And just the nonstop, the fact that there's like almost no sound. That's not like you can hear the gunshots and stuff. Like sometimes I think they come in and out, but for the most part, it's just that.
It's like a fucking bagpipe.
Yeah,
I was like,
dude,
what is this?
And that happens to me sometimes in my hearing, is I'll sit there and just.
Oh yeah, and then it's like, and then like fades
and
out.
It just goes away.
Yeah.
It's like, oh my God, I'm going.
Literally
deaf.
the other day, I was like, what the fuck is that?
Yeah. He drops both. He kills both these guys. I love him seeing the cop in the rearview mirror. I was like, yes, fucking him just my dick hard,
running to the fucking. I was gonna say the driver's side fucking window, but I guess that's the passenger side window in America.
Yeah, that's ours.
Yeah.
It's like, it's so smart, you know, to like, but at the same time, like right when he shoots him, he's not paying attention, and the other guy blasts him in the fucking shoulder. But this is my only thing, is like Ray Liotta showing up is kind of like, how the fuck did you know? How the fuck did you know where he was going to be? You know, kind of thing.
Yeah, it is one of those things. Like because he does save his life, right? Because Ray was lining him up and everything like that. But yeah, I don't know. It's just one of those things that you just got to take. Just like,
it's one of my only things at the end where I'm like, you know.
Here's my things though. I love that this is not some big protracted shootout. No one's got automatic rifles and shit. Like it's not this big siege. Like, you know, it's just, I'm going to hunt these motherfuckers to scorched earth. And yeah.
And when's the last time a gun went off? At like 2 hours ago. Like since he shot those guys, a gun has not really gone off. Well, no, I guess except when they try to kill what's his name, but still, that's like off screen. You can barely hear it. It's like, dude, this is like a fuck. And it's so her in the bed, him jumping out of like the window. It's so like, it's like a Renaissance painting almost. But there's something so awesome about him shooting, you know, basically, you know, Ray Liotta missing is what attracts him to like be able to find where Ray is, and he just turns and blasts him. But I 100% thought they were going to kill him. I was like, oh, they're going to kill Freddy off. Like this will be, because Freddy has already given a piece of himself, like saving somebody. And this will be another piece of himself that's like more permanent this time. And there's something again, just so poetic about Ray saying something. He's like, I can't hear you, Ray. And I love that that's his last words to Ray. And he's like, I can't. Sorry, man. Like, you've turned me into this, thing. You've made me, this deaf thing. And I can't hear you now. It's like, I love that. Like, you kind of created the monster that destroyed you somewhat. But really that's kind of the end of the movie. They take him to the NYPD. And my thing at the end, I can't remember what the narration is. It's like there was a shit ton of indictments or something. So Gary Figgis copped a plea. He gave up the connection between Ray, the PDA, and the mob. There were a shitload of indictments. And the sheriff, Freddie Heflin, that's his last name. And the sheriff, Freddie Heflin, well, there's people on both sides of the river that wish he never recovered. They cursed the day he took down Ray Donlin. But what they don't know, he figured out no one is above the law. And then boom, my movie just ends. And
really? That's so interesting to me, because I do have that narration. I have that that De Niro narration. But then you get like news kind of like articles, headlines.
Okay, now I do get it's like city shots, and they're going over the shitty city.
Yeah. You see the Twin Towers, and then you come down over the GW Bridge, and you've got Stallone looking out towards the city. And Noah Emmerich shows up. He's like, we got a truck jackknifed. And then Noah Emmerich's like to Stallone, he's like, you okay? And Stallone's just like, yep. Walks back to the police car, and they just take off. That's it.
Okay, that's pointless. No,
it's weird that was cut from the director's cut, but is in the theatrical cut, because it doesn't add anything to at all.
That might be a studio thing of we've got to show him back in action. I don't know. That could be a studio thing. Who fucking knows? But hell yeah, dude, that's fucking Copland.
That's fucking Copland, dude. What a great movie.
Yeah, I'm super. Do you want to do closing thoughts, listener comments?
I got a couple of listener comments.
Excuse me. Go for them, dude. You got them. They're all you.
Sweet. All right, let's go. Oh, shit. All right. Okay, Jose Rivera. Jose, I love Jose. He's always the first to comment. You're the shit, Jose. He says, I like this movie when I first saw it, but it's one that rewards you with something new on repeat viewings. Randone's death always got to me, and that damn song Ray listens to has been stuck in my head since I was 14 years old. Which song was that?
Oh, fuck. I have no idea. I don't know which. I mean, there's like the I'm burning for you at the party. But
that
I
might
can't remember.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Matt Anderson of LSG Media fame says, one of the most realistic shootouts in film, period. Really?
I mean, I like the minimalist style that it takes. It's
I like that too. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't like. Yeah, it didn't jump out to me at all. In terms of
nobody walks away unscathed.
Right,
like Stallone gets shot once,
true.
and yeah, I like that.
Carlos Freitas posted a bit of a funny one. He says, "Go to lunch. Go to lunch. Go to lunch. Go to lunch. Hey, go to lunch. Go to lunch. What are these files? Give me those files and go to lunch." Patrick Harrington says, you see so many ridiculous Stallone movies that you forget the guy actually has the chops to pull off a great performance. He's fantastic in an against type role in this movie. The supporting cast is great. I do wonder how much coke Liotta did during the shoot. This movie,
you gotta stir the sauce,
dude.
I can see him all cooked out.
This movie gets lost in the shuffle of Stallone movies, and it shouldn't. It's top 5 material for his career. Yes. I'd actually say top 3. Honestly, probably First Blood, Rocky, and then probably this in terms of his performance. So good.
Yeah, I would say it's so the Maverick in his lineup that it's kind of like, okay, I'm down for that. It's totally different typecast. I like it.
Yeah, thank you so much for commenting, everyone. Really appreciate it.
Hell yeah. Really, not to beat a dead horse, I really, really like this movie. I think that it's so old timey, and it feels like a Western, but it also feels like a 70s film. And I like the one sheriff in town who's, again, it's like, spitting in the pissing bucket. Like, you're a sheriff of a town of cops. Like, you're useless, there's nothing going on here that these guys don't, pretty much handle themselves. But I think for the most part, I love Stallone's character because like it's not a mystery that you can that you just completely solve at the end that I feel like, oh, I've just figured this character out so completely. Like he almost gives you so little that you can kind of put your own emotions onto him in a way. Like he's so blank sometimes that it's almost like I can relate to a guy who's like, man, I just, not a risk taker. Like he's definitely not a risk taker. And I love that scene. She's like, how come you never got married, Freddie? And he's like, because all the good girls were taken, and it's like, basically I never took my shot. All of them were already taken by the time I had the nerve to do anything. And I think he's a gopher. You go for this, you go for that. It's like, my dad told me a long time ago, my brother, I got two older brothers. And I remember going to get something my brother told me to, and my dad was like, let me tell you something. He was like, don't be a gopher. And I was like, what do you mean? And he's like, next time somebody says, hey, go get this or go get that, tell them to fuck off. And he's like, in a nicer way. He's like, tell them to get lost. And I remember next time, one of my brothers is like, hey, go get the remote. I'm like, no, you go get it. I'm not getting it. But I feel like Freddie never had that moment where someone's like, dude, stand up for yourself and do, and reach, and don't let these, I love what De Niro says, where he was like, they're like maggots and they infect the cops around them. And it's like, that's you, Freddie. Maybe. And this is my thing that I said at the beginning that I was going to bring in was, how does Freddie not go to jail? And it's like, about all this shit. You've been the sheriff here for like 10 years. And it's like, at the end, they're like, oh, Figgis copped a plea, and then he, got out. I was like, whoa, so what happened to Freddie? Because, like, you've known about this shit for 10 years, dude. Like, so, like, do you not serve? I guess, he didn't do anything illegal, but it's like, but still, you're the sheriff. You've known something's been going on, man.
But is there, like proof that he looked away? That he turned his head. It's not what you know, it's what you can prove. Right, and it's like, that's the only thing. It's like plausible deniability, as long as you've got that. I like this movie. It gets a little complicated, and I think that's probably just a clash of like director's cut versus theatrical. I would like to go back and watch the theatrical and sit down and just kind of note the differences between it. But this was really good. I think it definitely is top 5 Stallone. I think it's probably Robert Patrick's best movie. I love him in T-1000. I love him, dude. He's great. But maybe I'm just so used to that. I'm just kind of burnt out on it that I'm like, man, seeing this guy get to act and be terrifying and be intimidating is really fucking cool. And I've just always kind of seen him. He's never been like a major player in stuff that I've seen. And it gave me a whole new level of like, this guy really did not get like the shit that he deserved. And he did a great job in this movie. I think he's my fucking MVP, but he stands out in a pretty good lineup of people to me. There's something about him that's like, I've never seen Robert Patrick. Like I've seen, you never really see Stallone like that, but I was like, I've never seen Robert Patrick like that. I've never seen him be this kind of like quiet, terrifying cop. And it set so well with me. But it's a great movie. I can't recommend it enough. And I, like Jose said, it gets lost in the shuffle, and I hope that doesn't keep happening. I hope that kind of, it gets reconnaissance in a way, I hope more people start paying attention to it. Yeah, I mean, how do I follow that? I really dig this movie.
Well, good night, everyone. No, I'm just kidding.
No, I really dig this movie. Great cast, great story. And fucking, honestly, James Mangold writing this and directing this himself, just top notch. And so early in his career as well. So, yeah, man.
It's like his second movie?
Second movie, yeah. His first movie was called Heavy. It's interesting when this came out, actually, because the Rampart scandal was happening March 1997.
Oh, yeah. Training Day.
Yeah, right, exactly. March 1997 is when that all kind of like kicked off. So this movie came out 1997. And it's kind of wild that it was like all happening at that time.
You gotta think guys seeing this in theaters like, oh, yikes, that's hitting a little close. These cops are like, that's hitting a little close to home.
Right. But yeah, man, I really, really adore this movie. I love I love the angle of police corruption in films. And like having someone with like a heart of gold stuck in the middle of it, like Freddie, and Sylvester Stallone playing Freddie as straight as possible, but also kind of like being like in a morally gray area. This might be one of my favorite Keitel performances. I love him in Taxi Driver. Obviously love him in Pulp Fiction. But this is, I don't know, there's something about the guy who pulls the strings that he does really well. Like, there's something about like the whole the man behind the, like, dude, when he rocks up on the bridge and like, he's calling the shots and all that stuff, outside of the, oh my God, he jumped moment, like, everything else is like perfect. I really adore this movie, dude. I'm glad we got to talk about it.
Hell yeah, dude. Me too. Guys, this has been fun. It's been a long one. It's been a chunky bitch, this episode. We hope you enjoyed it. Again, check out more of our episodes. We've got our other podcast, Bad Crystal. It's a Breaking Bad podcast. And again, please check out our Patreon. That's patreon.com/Midnight Double Feature. And you can also find anything and everything, written reviews and more at midnightdoublefeature.com. So feel free to always check out there if you can't find anything. Guys, this has been a blast. We hope you enjoyed this episode, and we will catch you on the next one. See you later.
We'll be right back.